We have raised Kiko meat goats for, God, 5 or 6 years now. We have a tremendous business. We have had the highest selling doe at the Georgia sale for the last 2 years. We've had second highest selling doe in the Cookeville, Tennessee sale. So what we don't have your regular, what I consider scrub goats that just eat out of the pasture. Our goats are fed alfalfa hay, and they get high protein grain. And we've got our babies, when they're born, they weigh about 10 to 12 pounds a piece. So we're not raising scrubs, as I like to call them. We're raising the good stuff. And we've got a great farm, and I invite all of you to come visit with us. We love to have people come over. It's been a great time. I wanted to do a goat video with y'all, but I wanted to let y'all know that my mama was exposed. My mama's been on the front line since March. So she was exposed 5 times in the last month. She has not gotten it because we've got the blood type that's got the antibodies. But do continue to pray for her, as she has been on the front lines since March, and it has not been an easy task to be away from her, but it is what it is, and we're just trying to protect everybody. So we've started out our fundraising year with a bang already, raising $265,000 with 8,115 participants. This has a lot to do with all of you already educating your members on what North Carolina Realtors PAC has done for them in 2020 and will continue to do in 2021. We are truly grateful for all the hard work you all have put in the last year and to make it such a success. And we are looking forward to all the great things we will do this year, making it the greatest of all times. If at any time you guys have technical difficulties, please reach out to the tech hotline. At the end of our training session today, we will have time for questions. You're more than welcome to type those questions into the chat box during the training and save them for the Q&A session at the end. We may not be able to get all of your questions today, but Kristen, Han, and myself are always available to answer questions once the training has concluded, either by phone, email, text, whatever you have on your mind. As a thank you for attending today's training, 3 lucky attendees will be receiving an Amazon gift card. You have to be here all 4 hours to get it. Now, we are going to kick off our training session today with a video from your regional North Carolina Realtors PAC trustees, followed by our first speakers. Enjoy.
Hello, fellow North Carolina Realtors. My name is Lisa York, your 2021 PAC Chair. 2020 came with some challenges with COVID, but with the help of you and some amazing individuals, we were able to make go with your investments. We greatly appreciate what you did in 2020, and we look forward to having you on board in 2021. At this time, I would like to introduce to you some of our 2021 PAC Rockstar trustees. So enjoy the video. I'll see you soon.
Some reasons I invest in our PAC is the ability to allow us to bundle our donations into a larger voice by multiplying our individual investments over many different races across the country, local, state, and national elections. And also, it gives us the ability to promote home ownership, which is vitally important to our communities, but also to our members. They're able to continue to sell homes at affordable rates and have financing, and all that gives us the ability to do so.
I actually have 2 wives, and it's the 2 ladies you see in the photos behind me, my 2 daughters. I serve now and I invest now in our PAC to protect property rights, protect investments, protect realtor issues for mainly these 2 girls. So when they're old enough to invest and purchase real estate, that their rights are protected then. The same way we're fighting now to protect private property rights, that I want all of that to still be there for them when they're old enough. That's my why.
I've been investing in our PAC since I first became an agent and eventually a trustee and President Circle member. I've seen firsthand what supporting our PAC does for us, whether that was supporting the road maintenance bill, stopping fee for services, or having us declared as essential workers back at the beginning of last year. Investing in our PAC is important for our industry.
Having been involved for over 25 years with the North Carolina Realtors on the legislative end, I have seen the importance of how having a unified voice in Raleigh can be beneficial to us and our industry and our clients. In order to do that, we have to fund and elect and re-elect and keep in office realtor-friendly candidates who support our ideas. I hope you will join me and the rest of the realtors in North Carolina in making an investment into our political action committee to ensure that our business continues to move forward.
I am super excited to be serving as a first-time trustee for Region 1. I'm a long-term investor because I believe in the collective power of our PAC to serve as a champion for consumers with respect to education and advocacy. Simply put, I believe what we do makes a difference. I'm looking forward to learning more and helping to make 2021 another outstanding year.
As an RPAC investor, I'm part of a national group that pools our resources together to support elected officials that support our issues that matter to our industry. Sure, I can write a check to an individual candidate in my local area that's running for office, but why not join my other fellow realtors and demonstrate that we're all on the same team and support the same issues?
People are always asking me or telling me I don't believe in giving money to political candidates. And my response is always the same. You are not giving money to political candidates. You are giving money to the North Carolina PAC. And we do the research to make sure that that money goes to candidates that support our cause and your cause, that support the real estate industry.
Our RPAC dollars go for so many benefits to each and every one of us. Everything we do is legislatively based, code of ethics based, and we have to adhere. I plead to you, each and every one of you, to please consider contributing in 2021. 2020 was a precedented year, and we exceeded our goal, but 2021 is going to be a totally different year. We have flood insurance issues. We have tax on services issues. We have so many issues that we really need to just get our foot in the door and be able to talk to our legislators about.
Serving as a trustee this most difficult but surprisingly promising year has opened my eyes to the tremendous amount of work behind the scenes. Our North Carolina voice is strong in supporting our clients' rights. Realtors need to support those who support us every year. This year, I'm proud to be a Sterling R, and this is the beginning of my ongoing commitment to our industry.
RPAC investments help support the issues that protect homeownership. Issues like flood insurance, insurance hikes, orphan roads. There's so many things that affect homeownership, and that is what your investment in the Realtor PAC helps support. As far as the real estate industry, it helps protect tax on services. Do you all realize, I'm sure now you're seeing a tax on your photographer that you hire for your listings. We are helping to keep that tax away from our service as a realtor. So please invest in the Realtor PAC. You're making a difference for real estate. You're making a difference for home ownership and your clients.
So I got involved in RPAC about 10 years ago, not because I love politics, far from it. I got involved because I realized that the decisions politicians in Raleigh and in Washington make have a huge impact on my business, on my life, and on my clients' personal property rights. So I also realized that if you're not in the game, you're going to lose. If you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. The Realtor Political Action Committee gives us that seat at the table. With over 100,000 realtors in North Carolina, with over 1.4 million realtors in the United States, our representatives know that we are a player.
Well, for me, when I hear that's who we are, that R is for RPAC. It talks about everything we need to do along the lines of fair housing, protecting and promoting private property rights. And as a participant in RPAC, each of us can help be part of a voice that is 1.4 million members strong. Across North Carolina, we have more than 50,000 members in our state association. And then on a national level, we're over that 1.4 million mark. Think how loud that voice is when it is singing in unison at 1.4 million people.
I invest in RPAC because coming together with one voice is the most powerful and efficient way we have to make our voice heard on the issues affecting real estate and private property rights and ultimately our livelihoods.
Having served on the executive committee and the board of directors for 10 plus years, I have seen the benefits that RPAC donations have created for North Carolina Realtors. I am going to be the Region 6 RPAC trustee, and I look forward to us always being in the top range of the contributions.
By donating to PAC, we were able to have our elected officials fighting for us on a state and federal level, and to make sure we remained essential and were able to offer our clients help to get that dream home, to make sure they had rental payment assistance, and to make sure that the payroll protection program benefited as many as possible.
RPAC means influence. Legislative leaders that support realtor values are rewarded, and those that oppose our values do not get rewarded. Well, we had someone that had previously been rewarded many times that suddenly received nothing because he had opposed one of our major initiatives. After I explained what happened, he suddenly became a co-sponsor of the very bill he had opposed previously. That is the power of RPAC and the power of the pen.
If 2020 taught us anything, it's that we need to be ready at all times. We could have never guessed that we would have a pandemic, but when it counted, we had a seat at the table. We had a voice on the local, state, and national levels. And that was super important last year.
Our fine government officials in Buncombe County decided to shut down the Register of Deeds office. And if we didn't have the organization we do have in place, we would have nobody to call. We did a local alert, went through our GAD, and we got action to where it was very short. It was about 3 days where we couldn't close something. But sometimes, we need a voice in government, and the best way I know to ensure we have it is by giving to RPAC and then donating my time.
I invest in the Realtor PAC because it is the largest nonpartisan PAC in the nation. And the efforts go from local, state, and national fighting for issues around the real estate industry. Those are home ownership issues, those are private property rights issues. There's a lot of legislation that gets introduced at all three levels annually where our legislators may not understand the unintended consequences or the pros or cons of that legislation. And the Realtor PAC and Realtor Party step in to help educate and give data and support those so that ultimately we're supporting the buying and selling of real estate for all individuals in the U.S.
To me, being an investor in RPAC is so important because there's so many things that we can accomplish working together. And I just hope that we can get more people to invest more, to invest for the first time in 2021, because there's so many of us who don't give anything. And that's a shame because we all should be giving at least something.
Not only do I believe that it's important for all of us to invest into the Realtor PAC, but I believe in putting my money where my mouth is. Something I've enjoyed doing for many years is going up to Washington, D.C. for mid-year convention and lobbying really hard on behalf of realtors, our initiatives, and just as importantly, for private property owner rights.
The advocacy allowed us this past year during the pandemic to remain essential services, which meant that we were allowed to stay in business to help our clients who were really in need and in hardship. It also allowed us for the first time ever to receive unemployment benefits. Now that helped so many of our members receive that income while we were not able to have the business that we were used to having. And it also allowed us to more readily be able to secure SBA loans to help our businesses.
I am a major RPAC investor because not only is homeownership integral to the foundation of this great country, but the real estate industry is also integral to economic development, not only on a national level, but also within the state of North Carolina and in my local community. And I know that protecting things related to home ownership, private property rights, and the real estate industry are important for all of us.
I love the PAC because it fights for private property rights. Those things we're involved with every day for us and our clients. So I not only give, I give to be a major donor. So I hope all of you want to give and become a major donor, because it's something we all should believe in and fight for, because it's in your industry, it's your job, it's your profession. So fight for these things with me.
I'm honored to be serving not only my AE colleagues who appointed me to this position, but all NC Realtors. I'm proud to invest in RPAC as an association executive because I've seen firsthand what cooperative and collaborative relationships between realtors and elected officials can truly mean for a community. I'm looking forward to being a part of the discussions about our advocacy in 2021, and I'm honored for the chance to serve.
Now that you've had a chance to meet your Rockstar PAC trustees for 2021, I want to take just a minute to let you know, if you have any kind of ideas for fundraisers for 2021, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Bruce Gates, any of the trustees, Bill Aceto, who is your vice chair this year. And speaking of Bruce, kudos to Bruce. He did an amazing job leading us through the COVID last year. And I think the trustees are ready. We're ready to raise a lot of money. So check your inboxes. We've got some fundraisers rolling out right now. Check your inboxes. In the meantime, love yourself, love others. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you soon.
Wow. Well, that was pretty powerful, folks. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to how the Realtor Party protects bad legislation. With your North Carolina Realtors 2020 election recap and 2021 legislative preview, here is Katie Thomas and Pam Milton and your 2021 North Carolina Realtors Legislative Chair, Ray Alexander. And I think that Katie may have a announcement that she would like to make that we heard this morning.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll let Ray, if he wants to say, if you want me to do the RPAC stuff first, and then I'll turn it back to you for legislative stuff. How's that?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So the first good news that came out this morning or last night is that the North Carolina Realtors PAC was the #1 state PAC in #1 PAC in state giving as a state PAC last year. So you did an amazing job fundraising, and then the trustees did an amazing job with their actual appropriating that money, I guess is the best way to say it, investing that money in candidates. There were 3 PACs that actually did come in a little bit ahead of us, but they were all federal PACs, none of them state PACs, 2 of which had never participated in North Carolina elections before, and they were all partisan. They were not association PACs or corporate PACs. They were partisan PACs. So really excited, and have been getting blown up about it, which is good, from legislators who are excited and really appreciate the efforts of last year, and other lobbyists who are jealous. So thank you for that. As far as the 2020 election outcome, we had 100% success rate at the federal level, a 95.6% success rate at the state level. And that was because while we had 100% success in the Senate races, we lost 4 races in the House. Now, I don't want you to think that that means we were by any means playing it safe. We definitely took some chances on some good friends who we weren't sure if they would be able to pull it out and come back this year, or come into the legislature, but they did. And so it's really exciting. We also use the PAC and our Property Rights Fund in coordination to, well, coordinating is not the right word, but we use them simultaneously to help promote our best friends in the legislature. And what an independent expenditure is it's a public campaign by our Property Rights Fund to support candidates. So we will do mailers, we'll do radio ads, we'll do digital ads that focus on getting the message out to the general public about why you should vote for the candidate that we've supported. In that, we only lost 2. And so, but that gave us 91.3% success rate. However, one of the candidates that lost, her senator, she was in the House of Representatives, her senator decided not to be seated after he won his election, and she has been appointed to his seat. So it's really a win because she'll remember that we helped support her in her House race now that she is in the Senate. So I'm excited about that. Another thing that we used this year was opportunity races. And those are races where we go directly just to our realtor members to make sure that they understand who the realtor friendly candidates are in their areas and make sure they get out the vote. So really had a great success this year with all 3 of the PAC, the IE, and the opportunity races working together. So Ray, is there anything you want to say about the start of session before I get started?
Well, I'm just honored to be here, being the legislative chair. I know most of you have been a part of both and always do part of both because they go hand in hand, raising the money and raising the awareness through legislative, and having lobbyists like Katie, who's our chief lobbyist, take care of us and guide us. So I just wanted to say these things, showed themselves front and center the start of this past year, well, in March, especially in my town, Greensboro. Charlotte and Durham, I understand, were the 3 worst when we got put non-essential. So even if it wasn't a state thing, then it became a local thing, and all hands were on deck fighting for us. So it came front and center. So I'm real excited to now be the legislative chair and working with Katie and most of you who have always been my mentors. So I'm excited about that. And we're looking as one of my things, doing these Zooms that came to front and center to me is one of our 3 topics that Katie talked about earlier is broadband. So getting broadband, but I'll let her explain the things we're going to work on and go after. So our chief lobbyist and someone I admire very much. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, Ray, very much. I appreciate it. So just a little bit about session. We officially started on the 13th, but they just came in, handed out gavels for the committee chairmanships, assigned offices, and went home for 2 weeks so people could move their offices and committee clerks could get committees set up so that we can start tomorrow, the official start, where bills will start to be introduced and they will start to hold committee meetings. However, with no bills introduced, there's no reason to hold a committee hearing quite yet. So we're looking at probably another week or so before those get underway. We have bill filing dates throughout March and April. Different bill types have to be filed at different times throughout those 2 months. And then we have the May 13th date, which is the crossover date. And that is the date by which the bill has to have passed out of its body of origin in order to remain eligible for the 2021-2022 biennium. And all of this eventually leads us to adjournment, which we have no idea when it will happen this year. As if you've been on some previous meetings, you've heard me say, I'm not as optimistic as others. I think we're here till Christmas, but the adjournment for long session years is typically sometime around July or August. This year, because of some things I'll talk about, I think we're going to get pushed out a little bit later. So because the General Assembly has to do some really big things this year. They have to spend COVID relief money that's come down from the federal government. They will likely do some additional COVID relief provisions and packages on their own. They have to pass a state budget, and then they have to do redistricting. And we're now hearing that the state budget, which starts in the Senate, might not even be introduced by the Senate until as late as May. We did think it would be April, but now it's looking like it will be May. And remember, it has to pass and be signed into law by June 30th. So that's a really tight time frame to get it out of the Senate, out of the House, negotiated, and then signed by the governor, which he has yet to sign a budget for the North Carolina General Assembly since he's been in office. So there has to be then the veto process and the veto override process. So it'll be a tight couple of months. And then we have redistricting. It is a redistricting year, but because of COVID, our census numbers are delayed, and we will likely not get those until late summer, which means we will not start redistricting until August or September. So that is what I think will keep us in Raleigh a lot longer than typical years. So what are our top agenda items? Our top agenda items are the remote online notarization. And just a side note, last night, one of the people that RPAC supported a great deal called me and said he wanted to be a primary sponsor on that bill. So it works. It works to get people engaged and to understand. So just like Dennis's story in the video. So remote online notarization, you'll remember we did a bill during COVID last year to do emergency video notarizations to allow people to get documents notarized through something like a Zoom or a Skype. What remote online notarization would do is it would be a permanent program that is actually safer. It is safer during the transaction because you're using a vendor that has safety nets built in around the actual performance. It also builds in videoing those notarizations and keeping those documents in a storage capacity for as long as needed under state law. So definitely a safer way, a more permanent way that we are hoping to get done this year, so we aren't stuck searching for a solution again, should we have issues or should COVID continue. Let's hope not. The next big push that we're working on is housing relief funding. So right now that focus is on rental relief because the money that has come out of the federal government will have a little over $560 million to support paying back rents and rents owed by tenants. We do know that in the next round of COVID funding coming from DC, there is a push to do mortgage relief assistance as well. So any subsequent package, we would be talking about mortgage relief, not just rental relief. And then broadband expansion. I think, COVID has shown us the need for a lot of things and a lot of ways we need to improve across the state, and the infrastructure of broadband is definitely one of them. So we'll be working with people like the Chamber and advocates in the General Assembly to ensure that we get programs included and expanded to promote a better broadband infrastructure across North Carolina. This is by no means the list. This is just 3 of the top items that we are working on, sort of the fastest out of the gate. We will be working on all kinds of things, especially our priorities that we always work for in the budget, like funding of the Workforce Housing Loan Program, funding of the Housing Finance Agency, EDP, Economic Development Partnership with North Carolina, all of our incentive programs that we work to promote to continue to be funded. So we will definitely be working on a large list of items, a long list of items, but this is, what is sort of the fastest out of the gate, as I said. And then we always have to play a little bit of defense. We know that will be coming.
On something.
On something, we will have to play defense. But other items, we typically get pulled into things because other people have good ideas as well. So here are just a couple of issues that people have come to us that they would like our input on, and the legislative committee has agreed to support 3 of these issues: the SALT workaround, the commercial property tax bills to ease some of the tax burdens right now on commercial properties, and the Timeshare Act reform that the Real Estate Commission is doing. And then we are considering the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act bill. So those are just some of the things that people will come to us with. And then, like I said, we always have to play defense. So we are right now, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, please, thank you. My typo that has driven me crazy in every presentation, I apologize. So we are always preventing against, tax on real estate services. As we have moved more towards a service-based economy, the push to tax more services is sort of an ever-present idea, even though we don't know of anything immediate or burning that is going to come up this session. We always have to be vigilant about watching out for it. We all know that DOT is having some funding issues. They're getting reorged and their funding structure is constantly under review by the General Assembly. And two of the most recent presentations given to the General Assembly both included vehicle miles taxes or mileage-based user fees. Last night, the speaker made a very bold comment and said that while he was speaker, they would not pass VMTs. So I'm less concerned about that this year. But it's definitely something we need to be paying attention to because it does affect businesses like real estate more so than others, people in those industries. And then whatever else starts getting filed tomorrow that are bad ideas that we have to stop. There will always be a number of them. So besides the stuff at the legislature, there's always stuff happening in the regulatory environment. So the Real Estate Commission is doing a rules change right now where we have submitted comments where we support some of their changes, we oppose some of their changes, and so we're asking them to change some of their changes. So we will continue to work with them on those. We have seen at the end of last year, the Rate Bureau came in with rate requests on both homeowner occupied properties and dwellings or rental properties or second homes with rent increases across the board of 25%. There were some counties that had maybe 23%, but the average across the board was 25%, no one being less than 23. So that is a huge hit and something we are actively engaging with the Department of Insurance right now to oppose. And then promoting good things that that are happening in the regulatory world, and that is private flood insurance. A new private flood insurance product. Last year, the Rate Bureau submitted a request for review of offering a private flood insurance product, and the Department of Insurance has approved it. A side note that I have failed to mention in previous discussions of this is that we commissioned our own study of the product, and it was found to be extremely fair and would be 95% cheaper for people, or 95% of people who got flood insurance through the private market would be able to get it cheaper than getting it through NFIP. So we were very excited that our study confirmed what the Rate Bureau was saying. And so now the push is to get insurance companies to actually offer the product that last year they wanted to offer, but COVID has, and when I say last year, I should say 2019, I apologize. COVID hit them for a loop. And so introducing a new product onto the market, they're a little bit wary of that right now. So just trying to show the interest there. So with that, I will see if Pam is on, if there's anything she wants to say. Pam is our new Director of Political and External Communications, and she'll be doing a lot of the regulatory work in the months and years to come, but hasn't gotten the pleasure to meet everyone yet since we haven't been able to meet in person. So I don't know if Pam is on.
Well, before she comes on, Katie, while Kristen's looking for her, I can see. Just wanted to say two things on your comments. One, I'll make sure that we don't forget about, I know everybody's got a big push for renters, but I'll make sure the landlords are always looked after and reminded. And two, just in case somebody didn't know what SALT means, state and local taxes.
Yeah.
So just in case somebody didn't know that, but I'm sure in this group, everyone probably does. So yeah. And I didn't know, Katie, if you had seen, I think Kelly Marks was making a comment to you.
Let's see, let me read it real quick. I've got that. Yes, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. Yes, the remote online notarization is something that about 20 plus states have enacted. And so we are hoping to get ours to be in line with the rest of the states so transactions can work easily across state boundaries.
It'll be tough after COVID if they try and take it away, that's for sure.
Exactly. So.
I did not see Pam, so unless we have any other questions, I think Lisa, we'll turn it back over to you to start our next session. Okay, so it accidentally kicked her off. So we will move into, oh, this is something I just wanted to mention because Katie did talk about all the wonderful things that we fought in 2020. And we thought it would be really nice if we could put together an RPAC related COVID graphic. So this is something that you all have access to. We'll be happy to send this out, but we just wanted to reiterate, that because real estate is essential, that RPAC and NC Realtors PAC is also essential. And this is a great way to continue those education efforts across the board. So we'll be happy to send this out. And then I believe we are
I'm
going
back.
to, oh.
I'm back. Something with this computer over here just does not like me today. Before we get started with our governmental affairs department, I did want to remind you guys, we have jumped in head first with fundraising for this year. Please reach out to your regional trustees for help and support. And don't forget the volunteers that sit on several NAR committees, as well as our FPCs and our SPCs. All of these volunteers are here to support your local fundraising efforts, which I will discuss a little later on. But at this time, thank you, Caddy and Pam and Ray. I'm sure we'll get to meet Pam at some point, for all their work on behalf of all of us. We greatly appreciate you. Our next speakers are a vital part of the NCR governmental affairs team. They help run and monitor the grassroots advocacy efforts. Please welcome Senior Vice President of External Affairs and my good friend, Mark Zimmerman, and the Director of Field Advocacy, Troy Bachman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm actually going to be very brief this morning. I am pleased that we have quite a crew of folks who work on your behalf for advocacy efforts, both at the state level and across the state locally. But the folks who touch you the most and most frequently and will be involved with assisting with RPAC is our field GAD force, government affairs directors, and Troy Bachman, who is going to talk to you about that program and take you through the efforts that this field government affairs group is going to help you with, is up next. And so without further ado, Troy, you want to take that away?
Sure. Thanks so much, Mark. And thanks everybody for having me on today. I'm excited to be here and share with you about all the good work that your GADs can do. So I wanted to start with this map. Hopefully most of you have seen it before. You'll notice that this is not the NCR regional map. Our field team has slightly different territories than our NCR regions. So last year, per the direction of our board of directors, we finalized statewide GAD coverage, and we've got 9 government affairs directors who help your local associations develop your advocacy work at the local level. So we have really strong infrastructure in Raleigh for advocacy, as well as in DC with NAR's work. And your local GAD can help you do the same thing at the local level in the halls of your own city, county governments. So I wanted to go over and shout out each of our team members. We've got a great team, and I want to make sure they get recognized. So over in the orange, over in the orange, we've got Mike Buttram. In the purple, we've got Mike Cooper. The yellow is Dalton Clark. The green and pink are Emma Souter and Joel Gillison, respectively. They're shared government affairs directors, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what that means on the next slide. The blue, we've got Stephen Bradford. Gray is Catherine Went, who also manages the North Carolina Homeowners Alliance. And the brown is Porter Graham. And finally, the salmon area is Kathy Wood. So we've got a really strong team, and they're awesome folks to work with. I also wanted to mention, you'll notice on this map, we've got black bullet points with lines. So some of the local associations have their own independent GADs working with their local associations. And if you fall in one of those associations with an independent GAD, please make sure that you reach out to them. They're an excellent group of folks doing really strong work and deep policy dives in those areas. So they're great to work with as well. So you can go to the next slide, please. All right, so what's the difference between a shared GAD and a regional GAD? I'm going to start with shared GAD since they were the first program rolled out in the field back in 2012 with the Greensboro and High Point associations. Shared GADs only work with 1 or 2 associations, and they do really deep policy work at the local level and help you develop your advocacy initiatives, and they're very hands-on. So not only are they helping your members connect with elected officials, but they're building relationships with elected officials on your behalf and carrying out a lot of that work themselves. We've got 6 local associations who have shared GADs, and I've got them listed on the screen that you can see. On the other hand, we have regional GADs. And again, this program is fairly new. We began rollout of this in 2018. And these are NCR employees who work with several associations. So the maximum we have 1 GAD who works with 9 associations. And their work is to facilitate all of the advocacy initiatives and RPAC activities that fall within the sphere of core standards. So whereas a shared GAD is really getting deep in at the local level and advocating directly to local elected officials, regional GADs are empowering you with resources rather than engaging directly with those folks. We can go to the next slide, sorry. All right, so I keep using the phrase advocacy initiatives. What does that mean? Most of you are here today because you believe in the power of the Realtor Party and you're really familiar with that concept of vote, act, invest. This concentrated action and attention on the issues that affect our industry and participating in the political process as a result. But advocacy does not just include direct lobbying. Lobbying is a huge part of it, of course, but advocacy encompasses so much more than that. It's your legislative efforts, your grassroots coordination, community engagement, and of course, RPAC all falls under that umbrella. And NAR and NCR have all sorts of resources available to drive those efforts at your local association, and GADs can help you tap into those. So your legislative efforts are those that your association undertakes to monitor local policy and make changes as necessary. So shared GADs can obviously help in that. But regional GADs typically don't engage directly with elected officials, like I said previously, but they can help you develop responses to any issues you encounter and answer questions you may have about various policy areas and land use questions as they arise, and coach you and your fellow members on working with elected officials. Grassroots coordination includes all of the activities which engage your members to mobilize on those legislative issues. So these are your SPC programs, your FPC programs, and if you've got local folks, local political coordinators, that falls under their category, excuse me. It encompasses all of the education efforts of your association to recruit members to action. Third, we've got community engagement, and of course that's pretty self-explanatory. NAR has an amazing suite of grant programs that we hope local associations will really tap into that allow you to participate in what's going on in your community. Some examples of grant activities that you might consider are working on small parks and community gardens, hosting community home ownership education classes, bringing in sorts of special speakers, and we've even had a couple associations apply for grants to get a housing needs assessment done in their area. And again, all of those things are things that your shared and regional GADs can help you figure out. The NC Homeowners Alliance is another great resource for grassroots coordination and community engagement. So if you're not plugged in there, I highly encourage you to do so. And last, of course, we've got RPAC, but I'll talk more about that on the next slide. But I also wanted to mention that if you're interested in seeing all of these resources that NAR has, and you have not seen realtorparty.realtor, I highly encourage you to check it out and talk to your fellow board members and your RPAC team about what your advocacy initiatives are going to look like and how you're going to truly embody the concept of Realtor Party and not just focus on the fundraising. So let's talk a little bit about GADs and RPAC. Obviously, RPAC is not just about fundraising. So we've got a couple concepts on the screen that have to do with funding and education, and I'll get to those in a minute. But your GAD is your point of contact for all things RPAC. They can pull investor reports, so you have a status update. They can manage taking investments, of course. They've got square readers for that, coordinating with your major investors, all of that. So anytime you have a question about what's going on in the RPAC world, whether it's at your local association or you've got a question of something at the state level, pick up your phone and call your GAD, and they'll get you headed in the right direction and help you figure out the answers to those questions. And that especially applies when it comes to planning your fundraising events and your fundraising year and facilitating those events. So you'll see that the next two icons are partner in planning and the event facilitator, and your GAD is both of those things. So not only is your GAD there to help you brainstorm and come up with cool ideas or share ideas from other areas in the state, because our GADs, we talk every week and we share ideas about what's going on, but they're also there at your events, taking those investments again, managing the paperwork aspect of it that can be so overwhelming sometimes. And I really want you to rely on your GADs to do these things. They help you plan and they help you roll out the events. Fourth, RPAC's not just about fundraising, right? The funding is just as important. It's our why we do the fundraising. So another area in which GADs can be of great help is your local candidate funding process. So as you know, all associations have access to local candidate funds to utilize in local races. And using this funding process can really change the local political landscape in your area. Our PAC makes such a big difference in the halls of the General Assembly because of the legislators and the candidates that we fund. So why not replicate that success at the local area, the local level if you can? And your GAD and your board of directors and your RPAC team can help you plan a funding process. And I think there's information about that in your RPAC handbook. But that includes interviewing candidates, sending out questionnaires to make sure that the candidate is in line and their viewpoints are in line with what we would want them to advocate for at City Hall or the County Government Center or wherever, whatever municipality you have. So the funding is just as important, and your GAD can help you figure that process out. Of course, again, they can help you figure out the documentation aspect and actually filling out the forms to get access to that money. Last but not least, your GAD is there to help you educate your members and your fellow realtors about what the heck RPAC does, right? So you're not alone there in trying to teach people about how RPAC works. GADs can help you create education resources tailored specifically to your local association. So they can help you highlight local wins that your association has had, local activities and legislators that are really key to advocacy success at the local level, and then highlight those successes in videos and emails, one-pagers, and various social media posts. So as you can see, your GADs are really there to support all of your initiatives at the local level and help you brainstorm all kinds of ideas to access the wealth of resources from NAR and NCR. If you've got any questions about who your GAD is, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is on the screen. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair York.
Thank you so much. Now I'm having all kinds of issues with my video over here. Thank you, Mark and Troy, for all that you guys do. We could not do it without you. And they weren't kidding when they said they have a team that's got our backs. We will now be moving into, but before we do that, I want to ask you, does anybody have any questions for Troy, Mark, Katie, Ray? If so, now's the time to ask.
Catherine, was there anything in the chat that you is worth mentioning or you want to mention?
There is not at the moment, but please keep sending in questions. I'm watching and we'll point them out.
Hey,
Yes,
Catherine.
We encourage you to continue to use the chat, and we'll answer questions as they come up. We'll try to answer them on here, but if we don't have enough time, we'll try to privately reach out to you as well. But also want to make sure that we address anything that might be somebody else's question too.
Correct. So we hope you are all having a good time at the present moment, although it is by Zoom. But at this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break, just 5 minutes. Meet me back here at 1:55. 1:55, we'll come back and we'll move into hour 2 of our training for this afternoon. I'll see you back here in 5. Hi, Krista. Hi.
Hey.
So it's 1:56. How many do we have back?
Well, it's not going to show if they're back or not. So I think we're
Oh.
we're good to go ahead and show the commercials. That way people can kind of gather their way
That's fine.
back. So I'll go ahead and
yeah, we're ready to roll. You're fine. You're fine. So we're going to move into hour 2, but before we start hour 2, we have a little bit of older North Carolina PAC commercial videos, and I'm going to turn that over to Kristen.
Hello, beautiful. Like a good neighbor, RPAC is here. How much did my RPAC investment save me last year?
Your investment in NC Realtors PAC saved you $8,500.
Sold. I didn't invest in RPAC. Find me some money.
I got you $1. Quicker? Nope, nope. Ha ha ha.
I'm North Carolina's proposed tax on services. I hear that realtors aren't being taxed enough. So each year, I wiggle my way onto the floor of the legislature. If I can get past the realtor champions in Raleigh, you'll see an 8% tax on every commission. So invest in RPAC, save money, and you'll be better protected from mayhem like me.
Yes, I'm married. Does that matter? Really?
Who are you talking to?
It's Michael from RPAC.
Michael from RPAC at 3 a.m. in the morning? Who is this?
It's Michael from RPAC.
Michael from RPAC, what are you wearing?
Khakis?
She sounds hideous.
Well, it's a guy, so.
Her passport requires no photograph. When she drives a new car off the lot, it increases in value. She has won the Lifetime Achievement Award twice. She once got pulled over for speeding. The cop got the ticket.
I don't always invest politically, but when I do, it's with NC Realtors PAC.
She is the most interesting woman in the world.
State treasurer, my friend.
I will tell y'all, those commercials crack me up every time I see it. and you know what? Those are things you can take back and show to your membership. That's fun. And treasure, God help her. That last one just cracks me up. But anyway, moving on. Welcome back. Our next speaker, you know and love. She is the director of political fundraising, our go-to fundraising guru, and all around North Carolina RPAC queen, and one of my best friends. Let's welcome Kristen Nash.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm super excited to be here with you all today. Of course, I know we wish we were all in person for this awesome training that we do every year, but virtually is good for today as long as everybody is being safe and healthy. And we'll start off today. I know I don't want to be repetitive. We've talked about what a PAC is. You've heard from all your trustees, why we have a PAC, why we should invest in the PAC. But, basically, like a lot of people said, we don't do this because we just love politics. We do this because we are a group of people that need to pool our resources together to have one voice. Thousands of realtors pulled together in one unified voice is a lot more powerful than one. And so that's really the purpose of our PAC, is so that we can be stronger in our numbers and the issues surrounding real estate, and to promote home ownership and everything that affects the real estate industry. So that's our why, and why we have a PAC. Also, that money talks. A lot of times, I hear people say, well, I just don't like politics. I just don't want to be a part of it. But what I like to tell them is, unfortunately, this is the system that we have, and we can either ignore it and let things happen to us in our business, or we can work within the system to help elect leaders that think like we do about real estate and property ownership issues. So your investment plus your voice equals success for all of us. And one day we will be just like this down at the legislative building again, hopefully holding up these signs and talking to our legislators. So a lot of times people ask me, do you support Republicans or Democrats? And you have probably seen in the past recent years, we have kind of been venturing over to the purple side of things, hence our purple shirts and a lot of our purple marketing materials. We are nonpartisan, and we support candidates that support realtor issues. So we're not Republican, we're not Democrat, and our own trustee, Sandra O'Connor, has said we are the purple party, and we support candidates that support you. And about half of our supported candidates are Democrat and about half are Republican, but there's never going to be an exact 50-50 split. And that isn't the point. The point is that we support candidates that support you. And as Katie already talked about, our awesome record of success, you can see these are our election cycle years. 2014, 93%, 2016, 94%, 2018, 90%, and then this year, the highest of all, 95% of our supported RPAC candidates won their races. So that means we have a lot of friends in the legislature when we need them and when we need to communicate our messages to them. So who decides who receives funding? So we get this question a lot. On the federal level, there's a team of trustees, just like on the state level, who are realtors from across the country that make funding decisions on the federal level. They also choose realtor-friendly candidates, and they come to the NC Realtors PAC trustees with their recommendations, but they ultimately, the NAR trustees, make the funding decisions for our congressional candidates. And for our state level trustees, this is a snapshot of your trustees. These are the 2021 trustees this year. There are 30 trustees. The trustees actually just made a modification to their bylaws and added 2 new voting members, which are the NAR Major Investor Council member and the NAR Participation Council member. Our Major Investor Council member this year is Tony Harrington, and participation is Linda Trevor. So whoever serves in those NAR positions moving forward, they are 1-year terms with NAR, will automatically also serve on the board of trustees. So you will probably notice that this structure looks a tad different than what we used for a very long time, and that is because the trustees recently revised their structure to include a simpler version of trustees. So to make it easier for everybody to understand, we decided to have 2 trustees assigned per region, because regions were just really, we really needed to have, more efforts, more people, more boots on the ground. And so having each region, instead of having 1 trustee per region, the trustees decided that they should have 2 per region so that they could split up the efforts and hopefully reach more of our members. So these are your trustees for 2021. We also separated out our officer positions, which is the chair, vice chair, and treasurer. Past chair is always a 1-year position of who served the year before. But if the one of the officer positions, if we have a regional trustee that is elected to an officer position, they automatically have to give up their regional seat. So if you see me reaching out to local associations or looking for people to serve in vacant seats, that's usually what has happened, is somebody has moved into a different seat, and the trustees would like for there to be as many boots on the ground as possible. So they don't want trustees serving in dual roles, so that we can each have parts of the state split up appropriately so that we can get to everyone in a timely manner with any of your legislative needs. And then also we have the NCR president, Kelly Marks, our NCR president-elect, Wendy Harris, our legislative chair, Ray Alexander, and then Andrew Sims, who is our AE advisor on the group this year. But these are the trustees that make the decisions at the table when those funding decisions are being made. And so As Katie mentioned, it's not a funding year, so we will be having a fun year of all fundraising and then moving into funding more next year. But the trustees do serve rotating 3-year terms. So there's constantly seats that become available on the trustees. So if you have members that are interested in getting more involved, we welcome their participation in what we do. Also, on the local level, who decides which candidates get funded? Your local association has the ability to fund local candidates. So this includes realtor-friendly candidates, mayor, city council, school board, county commissioners, and many more local offices. So just make sure you remember that your local association has the ability to give RPAC money to local candidates, and you have the ability to fund anyone really that is your choice. The NC state trustees and the national trustees don't have any say over your local funding. And the way the money splits out, a lot of people think money just goes into RPAC space, but it doesn't. Most of the time, 30% goes to the National Association of Realtors for National RPAC, and that goes to fund congressional candidates. But 70% stays right here in the state to be used at the state and local level. So as I just mentioned, you have money to fund those local candidates, and you might wonder how you have money, and that is money from the wonderful RPAC goal that you are assigned every year. Local associations are assigned a dollar goal. And it is not only important to achieve those goals just to protect our business and our industry, but also because the more money you raise, the more money you get back in what we call your LCF balance, your local candidate funding balance. So you get 20% of every dollar you raise back. If you meet your goal, you get 30% of every dollar you raise back. And if you go over goal, you get 30% up to goal and 40% of every dollar you go over goal. So this is how you build your local candidate funding pot of money, pretty much. And this can be used for local candidates, and it can also be used for RPAC fundraisers, which Hannah will discuss with you in just a little bit. So you have access to this fund for 3 years. You have your current year, which is whatever you raise in 2021, your previous year, 2020, and the year before that, which is 2019. And I know you all were sent a link with we made our handbook virtual this year. As I mentioned, we also have a PDF version of this. So anybody that needs that, we will be happy to send that out. And we will likely make that a PDF link on the website as well. So you can easily access that, because I know it's easier to find things and print things from a PDF document. But this information, your local candidate funding balances, is in the handbook for 2021. So feel free to take a look at that and let us know if you have any questions. Next, we're going to move into some rules and laws, which if Lee Brown is on here, she would like to reference me as a wet blanket, because I'm always telling people what they can't do. Which, I unfortunately have that responsibility as part of my job, but something that Hannah and I really try to do is find ways to say yes. So a lot of times, don't let any of these things discourage you. We can find solutions, and we will work through ideas that you have, and for fundraisers and anything really that you want to do. We will work through it to the best of our ability to find a way to say yes to the things that you want to do. And if you're wondering if this is Hannah, it is. This was actually something that they put in the training last year, and I was looking at it when I was getting things together, and I was like, is that Hannah? And I just sent it to her to confirm, and yes, it is. They were looking at venues for a major investor event when we could be in person, and this was taken along one of those pictures. So anyways, so hard dollars. So NC Realtors PAC can accept hard dollars from members of the solicitable class. So who is solicitable? Realtors, local, state, and national association executives. Now, please keep in mind, we have strict limitations on how staff, this is AEs and NCR staff, can be solicited. There's an interesting part of the law that explains that they either have to be, we can solicit them one way if they're exempt and one way if they're non-exempt. However, we don't know who is exempt and who is non-exempt amongst staff. So we have to be very, very careful about soliciting them. So just keep that in mind. And individual affiliates. Now, when I say individual affiliate, this means actual person, not the company. And also the person has to pay dues to the state, local, and national association of realtor, just like they would if they were an individual realtor member. So those are the solicitable class. We get a lot of questions about affiliates and individual affiliates. And a lot of times the best thing to do is just check with myself or Hannah if you have questions on who you can solicit, because a lot of times what we see is affiliates are members of just the local association and they're not a member at all 3 levels. Also, a lot of times the affiliate member their company can just be a member. So their company just pays dues to get access to your local association and to, get access to your membership and things like that, and be sponsors for your events and things. So in that regard, they technically cannot give to RPAC, but we will talk about other ways that they can invest if they want to get involved in our adventures. So hard money, this is something that we try to remind you of. Hard money, personal dollars, is hard to get. I know some of you who have been around in the RPAC world for a little while, you know that this has been you before, and that we can beg for money sometimes. And those are those personal hard dollars. Those are the only ones that we can accept. So no corporate monies or anything like that. Now, corporate dollars is what we refer to as soft dollars, and they cannot be accepted by NC Realtors PAC specifically. So soft dollars can be accepted through the Corporate Ally Program, which you have heard us probably reference and talk about here recently, because we are really trying to educate more of our members and associations on what this program is. These are NAR programs that are designed, organized, administered by NAR. So we appreciate your patience as we work through trying to figure out how to best incorporate them into North Carolina and how we can publicize them. And because we do have to be careful, because NC Realtors PAC can't accept corporate funds. So we do have to keep these monies separate. But corporate dollars contributed to the Corporate Ally Program do count towards your local association goals. And they also go towards the state goal. And if you have corporate investors that are giving over $1,000, they also count towards your major investor totals for your local and for your state association. So the one thing you do need to remember is that corporate dollars cannot be credited towards a local association's local candidate funding amount. So this balances that I was just talking about, how your RPAC monies can split back towards you. You get 20%, 30%, 40%. Just keep in mind that corporate money does not count in that, because technically you just have to remember it's completely separate, that RPAC is RPAC and corporate is corporate. And so when we're talking about RPAC money, it's just hard dollars. So you can meet your goal with soft dollars and all of those monies will go towards your goal. But just remember, if you only meet your goal with soft dollars, then you won't get any of the portion of that back like you would raising it with hard dollars, if that makes sense. So just keep that in mind. It does go towards your goal. It will count towards your local association. If they're over 1,000, they will count towards your major investors, but just in that local candidate funding allotment, you just will not see a reflection of a portion of any of those dollars coming back to you, because 100% of that goes to the corporate programs. And I have a quick video I'm going to share with you because I think it's been really helpful for me to understand. So enjoy this, and I will be right back.
What is the Corporate Ally Program, or CAP? CAP is a powerful partnership between the National Association of Realtors and corporate allies. CAP protects, promotes, and strengthens the real estate industry. CAP uses investments to support federal, state, and local advocacy campaigns and public policy priorities. CAP allows real estate industry partners to effectively join together and raise critical revenue for advocacy efforts. CAP is nonpartisan. It addresses the most pressing issues facing the real estate community. In 2019, more than $3.3 million were invested in the Corporate Ally Program. Who invests in the Corporate Ally program? Most any corporate entity may invest, including MLSs, brokerages, and realtor associations. Why invest in the Corporate Ally program? By investing, Corporate Allies help shape and define our industry. Join other real estate stakeholders to protect mutual interests. Increase NAR's ability to impact policy. Allow NAR to speak for the real estate industry in an engaging, powerful, and authentic way. Where do Corporate Ally program investments go? Every investment in the Corporate Ally program is put to work at all 3 levels of government to advocate for and support issues, candidates, or both. There are 2 ways to invest. In the Issues or Candidates program, both of which split the dollars 50-50 between national and state initiatives, or the Political Advocacy Fund, which divides the funding, and 30% goes to national and 70% goes to state initiatives. So join the fight and become a Corporate Ally program investor. How? Visit realtorparty.realtor/corporate ally today. Together our voices are louder, stronger, more powerful.
Okay, so I hope everybody enjoyed that, and we can send that out later as well if anybody would like access to that. But I think it really helps kind of explain how crazy that program can sound sometimes to people. So things to avoid when we are taking investments from members. This is on NC Realtors PAC side. So as I mentioned, we can't accept checks from corporations or businesses. Don't accept a contribution in the name of another, and don't accept a check written for several contributors. A lot of times people will say, I'm just going to write a check for my whole office and include the names. We can't do that. We can't deduct RPAC contributions from our taxes. Do not deposit RPAC contributions into your board or association checking account, into your company account, or into your personal account. If a local association is taking dues and RPAC together and are allowing members to write their dues on a check in addition to their RPAC, they must have a transmittal account set up to where they can put all of that money into what we kind of refer to a transmittal account as a clearing account. So that's not their operating account, so that then they can separate those monies and send RPAC to RPAC and dues to dues. So then they can then send to their corporate account. I think most associations are set up so that the money comes directly to RPAC through e-commerce and dues billing, which is great because it takes the pressure off all the local associations having to worry with any of those rules and what we can and can't do. And then, of course, do not write RPAC contributions from your board or association checking account. It needs to come from that transmittal account specifically.
Kristen, we have one question if you have a minute.
Sure.
Okay, it says some states allow corporations to sponsor RPAC events. NC does not allow this activity. Is that correct?
That is correct. So in North Carolina, the way our PAC is organized is that the only entities that can pay expenses of their PAC are either NC Realtors, like our organization, NC Realtors, or NC Realtors PAC itself. So you will actually hear Hannah's going to talk a little bit about fundraisers and how you can get money to host events and do things on the fundraising side of things in just a little bit. So we will address that, but that is a great question. Yes, we cannot have sponsors, unfortunately. So in terms of time limits, we really have to be very mindful of when RPAC investments are sent to us. A lot of times, of course, now in the virtual days, we aren't in person as much, but just keep in mind once we are back in person and we are collecting those RPAC investments that either whoever is collecting them, basically the time starts ticking to get them to myself and Hannah as soon as the member hands over the check. So the reason I talk about this is because technically a member could have a check written out to RPAC dated in March, carried around in their pocket until June, and then decide to hand it over. And technically that is okay because the time starts ticking when they hand over the contribution to the person asking for the investments. So just a friendly reminder to keep, these investments, don't hold on to them is basically what I'm trying to say. Just continue to send them to us. If you ever have sensitive information, credit cards or cash, you know, Hannah and I can create UPS labels for you, and we can have those sent to you. All you have to do is print them, and then that package will come straight to us, and then that way we have tracking information on it. So just be mindful of that as we're out there collecting investments. And in regards to solicitations, who, what, when, where, and why, we get probably the most questions on this, just because we're trying to get more people to invest, right? So first things first, this wonderful long RPAC disclaimer has to be included on all written RPAC solicitations. So technically, if you're on the phone with somebody and you make an ask, you don't have to include it, obviously, because you're on the phone. But if you are writing something, this has to be included. Writing something in a newsletter, writing something on your association website page, writing something in a closed Facebook group, which we'll talk about in a minute. The disclaimer has to be included. Any flyers, anything where you're telling people to invest, you must include the solicitation. So what constitutes a solicitation? A solicitation is anything that encourages contributions or is facilitating the making of a contribution. If you are presenting information on how people can invest in RPAC, such as providing an address like a PO box or a link to an event, that is a solicitation. So please keep that in mind. If you're telling people where and how to invest, that is a solicitation. So solicitation versus information. So information about RPAC does not necessarily constitute a solicitation. So it can be publicly available. If you're talking, you know, very vague about what you're doing, maybe the details, or you know, a member social that you have going on where you're going to have an RPAC portion in there, but you're just talking about the member social, that's fine. You just have to be very, very careful about anything that encourages people to attend, that would require an RPAC investment, and anything regarding, you know, just encouraging somebody to give. This is an example of something that we can put on social media. So as you can see, this is just very vague. I actually, if some of you are friends with me on my NCR Facebook page, and also Hannah, you'll notice that we don't post a lot of social media stuff about RPAC fundraisers. And a lot of times people will say, I didn't get the link, or what email, or what is happening? What is going on? And that's good, because that means we're following the rules. But we also will privately message and follow up with people that have questions, but we cannot solicit on social media because obviously we're friends with people that aren't of the solicitable class. So this was approved by NAR, and they said that I could post this. So it doesn't include the disclaimer because it's technically not a solicitation. It's not saying anything about it being an RPAC event, how to invest, where to give. You know, it just says NC Realtors. This was for our virtual whiskey experience, the date, when it was going to be, and if they had questions, they could contact me. So if I were to post this, then I could follow up then with people about the event and let them know that it was for RPAC before, you know, they incline to make their investment. But we have to be very, very careful about what we post on social media. There are where I think Hannah or myself, I can't remember whose portion, but we are going to discuss, you know, closed Facebook groups. And, you know, if you are, you know, managing a group that is, you know, is just realtors and of the solicitable class, you know, you can solicit in groups like that, but you really need to just make sure that those are all realtor members and that anything you're posting also includes that disclaimer as well. Catherine, are we okay?
You're good.
We're trying to monitor the chat and just making sure we're addressing things as we go. So what information can be placed on social media? So again, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you probably see me post a lot of educational information, you know, things that RPAC has done, our successes, educational information, accomplishments, great things that RPAC does. That video pretty much that we showed at the beginning of this with trustees, what's your why, that can be posted on social media. We're not making we're not leading people to make an investment in RPAC. We're just telling them why we do what we do. This is again why we started I Back the PAC Day, so we can encourage people to post their pins, pictures wearing their pins, why they do what they do, but not necessarily make a solicitation. Just be proud of the things that we're doing. Legislative priorities, accomplishments, all the things, you know, that Ray and Katie touched on, testimonials from you, you know, video testimonials about why you invest, pictures wearing your pin, things like that. This is an example that I pulled from a couple years ago. This is just great. I mean, it's not really saying that they're, you know, asking for an investment, but it's who they are, what they're doing, what their position is, things that RPAC has done, why it's important to be involved legislatively. You know, ask her how Realtors PAC can, you know, do these things or makes a difference, and starts a conversation around RPAC without actually soliciting someone for RPAC. So a lot of times you'll see us post after events, you know, pictures of the event, people that won raffles or won different things after the fundraiser is over. And so you'll see us post a lot of that kind of stuff, and all of that is completely fine as well. So what cannot be placed on social media? A solicitation. So just remember, don't place the solicitation on any social media unless you're in a closed group that you are certain is only of the solicitable class. Okay, so really quickly, we're going to go over goals and local association awards. I'm very sorry that we don't have the local goals outlined from the National Association of Realtors yet. They should be finalized any day now. So we just want to make sure that we're communicating the correct, you know, Triple Crown goals for everyone, and the participation and all of your required goals from the National Association of Realtors before we send anything out. So how we set our goal is based on basically the federal RPAC disbursements allocation goal. And then it also has to be higher than what we raised the year before in order to qualify for NAR awards. So if our state wants to qualify for the potential of getting Triple Crown as a state next year, we have to set our goal higher than what we've raised, including hard and soft dollars. So that goal, since we've raised a little over 930,000 this year, is going to be 931,000. We do have our state Triple Crown goals, so that's what these are. These are our major investor goal is 298. We ended the year just right around like 268 or 69, I believe, including our corporate major investors, which was slightly under what we raised the year before. So I really think we can hit this number this year. President's Circle goal is 30. We ended our year last year with 43. So I think that if we keep that momentum going and we have those President's Circle members rejoin, we will definitely hit that goal. And then our participation goal is 32%. Again, this is what it was last year. So as you know, our participation is always a challenge. So we ended the year right under 27% participation last year. And so we've just got a little bit of a ways to go to get up to that 32%. And as Lisa would say, since this is going to be the year of the GOAT, greatest of all time, we're going to do it. Once the state goal is finalized, local goals are based on basically the percentage of membership that you hold. So for example, if the Raleigh Association of Realtors has 6,922 members, they hold about 18.37% of the statewide membership. This is a previous calculation just to give you as an example of when we had less members. Obviously, we're up to a little over 50,000 now. And are responsible for 18.37% of the statewide goal. So each local association goal is set based on membership numbers as of October 31st of the previous year. And that's an NAR policy. So again, just waiting to get those numbers finalized and sent out from NAR, which will hopefully happen soon. So Triple Crown criteria is you have to meet or exceed your local association dollar goal, and then you also have to meet or exceed your local association participation goal as well. And then for President's Cup, you have to get 20% call for action response rate. You have to meet or exceed your dollar goal, and then you also have to get 37% participation. So a lot of times your Triple Crown Percentage is also 37% for some associations, but some it's actually less than that, just based on your membership. Just like our state, most of the states, across the country have at least 37% goal or higher. And we're actually one of the few states that has 32% less than 37%. So it's just based on your performance and, trying to make those goals achievable to hopefully get everybody, NAR's goal is to get everybody up to 37% participation or higher. Investor recognition, this is for the state level. We recognize members that give over $100 or more. This is a little picture of the little gifts that we did last year. That is a mouse pad and also a charging cable, and then our pin that we sent out to qualifying investors. And then new for 2021, we are going to start sending the surveys for anybody that invests over $100 to have the option to get a pin. And we're going to send those monthly so that we can be more efficient with those. And then at the end of the year, we are going to send gifts, just like we do for our major investors, to all of our 250 and 500 investors, so that it will just be easier to keep up with these qualifying levels instead of, sending gifts fluctuantly throughout the year. I think it will be easier to keep up and everybody gets their gifts at the end of the year or beginning of the next year. So these are our state levels. And then of course we have the major investor levels. And I'm sure those of you who are on Facebook have seen the hilarious commentary regarding the mugs this year. We sent major investor gifts out that were a Yeti mug, and the company that sent them somehow messed up a chunk of the names, not all of them, but certain people got their mug, but it was addressed to somebody else, and they weren't even actual major investors. They were completely different names, people that I didn't even know. So we really appreciate everybody being so adaptive to that little mishap and making light of that situation. And it's been quite hilarious to see some of the comments and the names that you are now going to go by on Facebook. But these are our major investors starting at $1,000. Obviously, if you are a President Circle member, you get discounts on your major investor renewal amounts. So you can see those over in the right-hand column, the President Circle major investor. Also, if you are thinking of stepping up a level in your President Circle, the level to join is actually lower than what it would be for major investor only. So those are our levels. Sterling R 1,000, Crystal R 2,500, renewal at 1,500, Golden R 5,000, renewal at 2,000, and Platinum R 10,000, and sustaining at 5,000. And then for Golden R and Crystal R, obviously you get some discounts on those President Circle levels as mentioned. And then for pledges, we get a lot of questions about this. So we are huge proponents of the pledge program because it's a great opportunity for members to invest a portion of their major investor amount at the beginning of the year, go ahead and get their PIN and get recognized, and then have the remainder of the year to complete their investment. So the main thing to remember about this program is that 30% of whatever your major investor renewal amount or initial amount is needs to go to NAR to make this happen. So if you're a $1,000 investor, 30% needs to go to NAR, which means you need to give $300 up front. Let me know, and then I will send all of that to NAR. The problem is if you don't let your GAD or myself or Hannah or somebody know that you're doing this, that it will not get split properly, because as mentioned before, we've split most of our money 70-30. So if you invest and don't let us know that this is a pledge and that it should go to NAR in order for you to get your PIN, it will not be recorded properly. So you just need to make us aware. Just send us an email, a little note or something, just making sure that we send that money to NAR appropriately. And Catherine came on, so I feel like we have a question.
You know me too well. Okay, so we've got one question that says, during this non-election year, tell us a bit how our investments will benefit the candidates directly.
So in a non-election year, it's just important to rebuild our funds, because just like last year, we had a funding year, so we have depleted a lot of our funding. And also, For state funding, it kind of operates, during a year when we have a lot of state funding, we don't have a lot of municipal elections. So this year is likely a year where we'll have municipal elections. And so it's actually a really important year for local elections and for local associations to use those local candidate funding balances and to also build those funds back up so that we can be prepared as we move into another election year next year. So this is, I like to call it a fundraising year so we can prepare for our funding year. So no money technically will be given unless the trustees call a special meeting or something special happens this year, unless it's given early for the primary next year, which wouldn't happen until the end of the year. So hopefully that answers your question, and I can talk more offline if people have more questions about that. So President Circle, as I mentioned, in addition to getting discounts on your major investor amounts, this is a really influential group of realtors who give $2,000 directly to realtor-friendly candidates. This is a special program put on by the National Association of Realtors, and there is also a group of trustees that make these decisions on who these realtor champions are going to be. So a lot of times people will ask me, well, can't I just give to my congressman or somebody that I know in North Carolina? And that is not always the case, because you have to be prepared that these are realtor champions from across the country. And there might be a lot of times that a North Carolina person is not on the list. And so you will be giving this money directly to candidates that might not be in your state, but they are realtor champions. Just like, a lot of our issues are federal, and so they go to those candidates who are supporting us on the federal level. And then we have the RPAC Hall of Fame, which starts at $25,000 and goes up to $150,000, and we may even have a level higher than that now. And we actually North Carolina has 10 members that are being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. So we are super proud, and our first $75,000 member is Lee Brown. So we are super excited for her. And we just really appreciate all the commitment. And we've got a really large group of Hall of Fame members. I think there's about 40 members in North Carolina who have achieved this magnificent level. And you get your name on a wall up at the NAR DC building. And I know when our government affairs office opens here in Raleigh, we're going to have some special recognition for our Hall of Fame members as well. So we look forward to that. They are also inducted during DC meetings. So that's usually where that happens. And they have a ceremony, and then they can see their name on the wall. Really quickly, because we're about to turn it over to Hannah, I want to talk a little bit about the 1/3 rule. This applies for raffles and auctions. And you basically, if you're having a fundraising event that is a raffle or an auction, it may not exceed the 1/3 of the total investments made by the contributors at the events. So in other words, whatever you spend, you have to raise 3 times that. So if you spend $100, you need to raise $300. So, and this is for raffles and auctions. And a lot of times people ask, well, how in the world do you make 3 times in an auction? And you will probably notice that a lot of times we don't have gift cards and things of value in an auction, because it is really hard to get somebody to pay $300 for a $100 gift card. So we have experiences and other items that don't necessarily have a set value on them to help and things like that. Also, it's an aggregate. If you're doing an auction, you don't have to raise 3 times on each item. As long as you raise 3 times on an aggregate of all the items that you have collected, then that will be okay as well. But just please remember this as you're planning events for raffles and auctions, that this rule does apply to that. And then one day when we're in person again, just remember our very fun rule in North Carolina that we cannot have raffles around alcohol. So we literally cannot be in the same room with alcohol and tickets being sold or raffle items or things like that. We have to have a clear separation. So as long as they're in a separate room, we're okay. But people should not be drinking and participating in raffle, buying tickets, et cetera, during events. So just keep that in mind when we're planning. And then prizes, I always think this is important to mention. as we're doing a lot of raffles and prizes and things, if you have a prize that's over $600 or more, your winner will have to pay taxes on that item. So just keep that in mind. If it's $599 or less total, you're fine. But if you go over your prize value, then that person will have to pay taxes on it. And this is, so like if you have somebody that wins all of your, if you have multiple raffles and they are really lucky and they win all of them and it totals over $600, they will have to pay taxes on that too. So just keep that in mind. It's their winnings for any of your events. And then in-kind contributions. We get a lot of questions on these. You can, a solicitable class can donate items for NC Realtors PAC events. We get probably the most questions about affiliates being able to donate items. And again, if they are an individual affiliate member and are members at all 3 levels, they could donate an item just like they could give to RPAC. So that you just have to keep in mind, they have to be able to give to RPAC in order to be able to give in kind. So we have to report these contributions to the Board of Elections, and we have a wonderful in-kind form that you can submit, attach the receipt or the value added to that. The fair market value does count towards your event costs. So a lot of times people think, oh, I'll just get everything in-kinded and it won't cost me anything. That is still costing you, because the fair market value, everything has a fair market value, even if it's $1. Will go towards the total of your event. So again, if you get in-kinds for your auction, whatever fair market value that is, we have to have a form for that. We have to record that, and then it has to go into your total aggregate for how much you will raise during that event. And then also, in-kind contributions don't count towards an individual's RPAC investment. So the best way I like to put this into an example is, say I own a beach house, and I'm going to say, I'm going to give it to this RPAC auction for $1,000, and that's going to make me a Sterling R. That's not how it works. Me giving that beach house to the auction at a value of $1,000 is just really kind of me. That's how we remember these in-kinds. It's just really kind of you to donate these things. And the auction will then need to raise $3,000 for that beach house that I donated. Well, hopefully, obviously, it's an aggregate of all your items, but your goal is obviously 3 times what you spend. So they will not count towards your individual year recognition, but it does go towards your Hall of Fame if you're shooting towards one of those very ambitious levels of 25,000 or more. It does, as you know, we report it to the Board of Elections. It is, a contribution. So we do report it, and it does go towards your Hall of Fame totals. Catherine, do we have any questions?
Yes, we had one request that you could speak more a little bit about President Circle and your ability to restrict to a certain party.
Oh, so again, President Circle is all, unfortunately, I can't speak to that too much just because the NAR trustees do make those decisions. I believe at the beginning, you can make a $500 you can use 500 of your 2,000 to go towards a party. Randall's got his hand raised. Let's see if I can. Randall, is that letting you talk?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So with President Circle, yes, your initial 500, you can choose whether it's the Republican caucus or the Democratic caucus for that to go to. Then depending on the candidates that are selected, the realtor-friendly candidates, there's generally a wide variety of, if you're looking for party-specific R's and D's on there, so you could invest all up to $2,000 just in Republican or just in Democratic candidates with your President Circle dollars. You do get to choose where those funds go on there. If you're an FPC, you can direct those directly to your member as well. But hopefully that answers that question and gives some light on that.
While we've got Randall on here, does that answer the question? Just in case there are anything else. Randall is super involved in President Circle and sits on the NAR trustees and is very knowledgeable of some of the things that they do. Randall, did you want to mention that they have paused President Circle?
Sure, yeah. So as a whole, the NAR disbursements trustees have paused all candidate funding, which includes our current release of the President Circle. So for those people who are generally President Circle or were potentially looking to become President Circle this year, usually round one has released by now, which is typically that party specific round, not with Realtor candidates. And that is currently on pause. It will be, obviously lifted in some time here in the future. But for those members and President Circle members who would like to go ahead and get their investment year started, go ahead and do your 30% of your typical investment to get that started. Because, generally your President Circle $500 investment will go ahead and get your pin on your way to you. But you'll need to do your 30% to get that going this year if you're wanting to get it going out of the gate. But at some point we'll get a direction from the disbursement trustees about when that will resume that.
Thank you so much, Randall. Really appreciate you jumping in on that one. Okay, are we good, Catherine?
We did have another question about why it was paused, but I believe Randall addressed that.
Yes. Okay, so really quickly, so these are our current approved statewide events we wanted to let you all know about that the state trustees have approved for this year. We have our awesome raffle going on right now, $50 per entry with a grand prize of $15,000 and 35 $1,000 prizes. We also are lining up some wonderful virtual tastings again for this year. Everybody had a lot of fun at those last year, so we're going to be doing a little bit of those again. And then we are going to be doing a holiday auction October and November, collecting items for that and launching that. That's something, obviously we've done an auction before, but we've never really themed it around the holidays. And obviously as Lisa, as our chair this year, we can't miss a year without having an auction with her as our leader. And then we will also be getting out communications for a BRIC Major Investors Step Up fundraiser. We're calling this Build a Pathway to Success, and we are offering the opportunity for investors to have their name on a brick at the Heck House. We are having to redo the entire walkway out front, and so it has been given, the opportunity has been given to the trustees to raise some decent money for RPAC through this, and I'll be getting out details on that, but we would really like to encourage our Sterling R investors to move up to Crystal R, which is why you'll see the investment amount at $2,500. And then other amounts that you invest throughout the year, $1,000 can be credited towards this. So don't feel like it has to be $2,500 completely separate. But it is a really unique, once in a lifetime opportunity, and I think it will be really cool and unique. So I'll be getting details out about that and all these other items as well. And then with that, Lisa, I'm going to turn it back over to you to introduce our next speaker. If we don't have any more questions, Catherine, are we good for now?
We are good.
Okay. All right, Lisa.
Kristen, thank you so much. Guys, these two girls right here, they work tirelessly. Kristen, I got to tell you something. I don't know if you can see her, but look. She heard your voice and she come in here and got in my lap. I said, look, it's Aunt Kristen. So we greatly appreciate you and Hannah. Look, she come right in here. She was like, hey, I hear something. So now that it's not whatever floats our goat, we'll move on to our experts in the field. Our next speaker completes our NC RPAC fundraising team. She is a political fundraising manager and local fundraising event expert, and she has become one of my dear friends, and she's been quite the addition to Kristen. So please help me welcome Hannah Brinson.
Thank you, Chair York. We are going to just kind of jump right into local fundraising. Today, we're going to kind of go step by step for fundraising event planning. So step one, brainstorming. Kind of the first question that you should ask yourself is, what kind of event should we host? hosting events, you want them to excite your members. You want your members to be engaged and be involved. You also want to be creative with your ideas. No idea is a bad idea. So please, whatever idea that you can bring forward, reach out to myself, Kristen, or your GAD, and we're happy to work with you on some of these really great ideas. Something else to really start thinking about is having a virtual event versus an in-person event. Since we are still in some uncertain times, please keep in mind that we are encouraging guys to start virtually with your events. Of course, if you want to host an in-person event, you just need to follow the North Carolina Health Department and NCR guidelines. All in-person events moving forward will have an extra approval process before submitting your application to FARC. Something else to think about when you're brainstorming is work with what's already on your association's calendar, meaning that you can tack on a NCR PAC event to an association meeting or luncheon or event that's already happening. You don't necessarily have to have a standalone RPAC event. Some of our most successful events are events that happen at membership meetings or luncheons. The next question that you should be asking yourself is, what program should we use? When you start talking about events and event planning, really try to narrow down what programs you think you could benefit from the best. So we have two programs. We have the 75-25 program. NC Realtors PAC will pay all of the expenses for this event up front. And then on the back end, 75% of the total expenses will come from the state's fund, and 25% of the expenses will come from the local candidate funding balance, or that LCF. All raffles and auctions must be applied for in this program because they are under that 1/3 rule. Any event that is applied under the 75-25 program must raise 3 times the amount spent. Our next program is the 100% program. You can use up to 50% of your LCF balance from the past 2 years for an event in this program. NC Realtors PAC again will pay for all of those expenses. And on the back end, 100% of those expenses will come from your LCF balance. You must raise at least 1 times the amount spent on this event. I will add that if on the 75-25 program, if you do not reach your goal, the extra money that would help you hit your goal will come out of your LCF. In the 100% program, that obviously does not need to happen since 100% of your expenses are coming already out of your LCF balance. And just as another friendly reminder, games of chance cannot be applied for under the 100% program. So really try to focus on games of skill in this 100% program category. Another question to think about while in this brainstorming step is, should we use one of the state's free event programs? We are offering 2 fundraising event programs again this year, free of cost to all local associations. The first program is the phone bank program. Each association is allowed to host 1 phone bank through this program. Expenses can be up to $250. And these funds can be used for various different things, refreshments, prizes for volunteers, prizes for investors. Just as a reminder, if you have a raffle while in conjunction with a phone bank, you must hit 3 times of the expenses. If you don't, you will get deducted in your LCF, even though it's a free event. And the second program that we're going to offer is the office visit campaign. We have $5,000 available in this pot, and this will be served on a first come, first served basis. We do recognize that in a virtual world, sometimes doing these sales visits and these office visits aren't as easy as they were when we were in person. So we do recognize that, and we are willing to work with you guys when you do apply for this campaign. This campaign is really meant to really grow participation within your local association and hopefully reach members that may not come to your association events or meetings. Thanks, Kristen. So step 2, submitting an application. So we have 2 applications that you can apply for fundraising events for. We have our local fundraising application. The local fundraising application must be submitted 3 weeks prior before the event date. So that means that if your event your event date is before that 3-week mark, you will have to revise your application before it gets submitted to FARC. The last day to submit an application is October 31st. Our next application is our local major investor event application. These event applications are due 6 weeks prior to your event. This is because we have a lot more planning to do for a much larger event. And these applications will be are not accepted after October 31st. So these 2 application deadlines are the same, October 31st. Of course, you can apply for an event after October 31st, but the deadline to have that application in is October. We are briefly going to touch on what a not approved event application looks like. Hopefully you can kind of see the application. I'm sure it's a little small on everyone's screens, but this application would not be approved for quite a few different reasons. One, there's absolutely no detail about the event. The more detail that you can put on an application, the better. It helps Kristen and myself plan accordingly on how we can support you guys in your local fundraising efforts, but also it'll help FARC go through what should be approved and what should not be approved. The biggest thing that I will add about this not approved event application is that this application is for a raffle, and they have tried to apply for it under the 100% program. Again, all raffles have to be under the 75-25. We do see this quite a bit, so just be mindful when you or your committee are filling out these applications. And then if we moved on to the approved application, you can see that there is much more detail here. You can see that a description of the event and the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the event is going to take place is answered. In the expenses box, you can see a very detailed outline list of expenses. For auctions and raffles, we do ask that you submit a complete list of those prizes and expenses before we are able to send your application on to FARC. This application is really great. I don't think that there's many questions coming back to you if you fill this out correctly. And if you do have any questions about filling out an application, your GAD is available at the, pretty much whenever you need to help fill out these applications and make sure that they're done properly. Step 3, FARC approval. So I have mentioned FARC quite a few times, and I'm sure some of the new RPAC chairs on here are asking what that means. The FARC is the Fundraising Application Review Committee. This is a subcommittee within your NC Realtors PAC trustees. It consists of 5 trustees, one of which is our NC Realtors PAC treasurer, Neil, and they do a great job. They approve all applications that come to Kristen or myself, and they do a really great job of knowing what's happening at the local level fundraising wise. They generally are really responsive to me. So just keep that in mind, that there is an extra approval process before you submit your application and determining your fundraising event date. Step 4, so marketing the event. All marketing materials must be approved by Kristen or myself prior to them being shared with your membership. We ask that you don't share any unapproved marketing materials. This is just so Kristen and I know exactly who's being solicited, making sure that the disclaimer is included if it needs to be, make sure that all of the investment links are working properly. So just make sure that any email, any flyer, social media post always goes through Kristen or myself. Utilize your GAD when creating marketing materials. Your marketing, team is Kristen, myself, and your GAD. Your GAD can really be there to help draft emails, social media posts, create flyers or save the dates, invitations. So utilize them as much as you possibly can when marketing your event. We also have a ton of NC Realtors PAC branded materials. We have our investment brochure, menu cards, investment cards, one-pagers, and we are always willing to print these items out for you or get them shipped to you whenever you may need them. Just make sure that you are, if you do need these supplies, that you're reaching out to us in enough time to get them to you before your event. Step 5, coordinating purchases. So as Kristen mentioned, NC Realtors PAC or NC Realtors must purchase all items for fundraising events. Local associations, volunteers, GADs should not be purchasing anything for events. You should always coordinate every purchase with Kristen or myself. We generally are really good about getting everyone their items and materials and prizes before the fundraising event. Do keep in mind that the mail has been a little slow. I'm sure we've all experienced that. So do keep that in mind when you're applying, that sometimes the materials may take a little longer to get to you, and it's not intended, we promise. We do recognize that in this virtual world, we may need to make some adjustments when coordinating purchases. So just in your planning process, please just always communicate with Kristen and I on the items that you need. Step 6, the execution of the event. So this is really the fun part. This is when everybody can come together, enjoy a really great fundraising event, and all of the volunteers and the chairs and the GADs and Kristen and myself can really enjoy all of our hard work being paid off. Make sure that you utilize your volunteers and NCR staff throughout the event. Your GAD will be at every event, so always coordinate your events with your GADs. They'll be there. Of course, Kristen and myself are always available to attend your events as well. Kristen, yep, so these are a few events that happened back when we were all in person. Some of them were changed over virtually, and we had a really great success with trivia night and reverse raffles. Major investor events. Oh, so Longleaf Pine had a great major investor event right before we got into lockdown, before the pandemic. They were able to hit local Triple Crown really early on with this event, and it was really great to see all of the people come together. Brunswick County did an awesome major investor event in 2019, and then Jacksonville Board of Realtors did a really great major investor event virtually last year. They did charcuterie and champagne. So if that is something that you are interested in hosting, a major investor event, kind of reach out to some of your trustees and see what happened around the state, what was successful major investor wise. And Kristen and myself are also happy to kind of guide you. We do know that Those events look differently. Normally we're all together in a big room celebrating. So we are happy to turn your ideas virtually if we need to. So last year we had some really great volunteers, and I asked 4 of them to kind of create a video for you all to discuss how successful their year was and why it was so successful. We will have a chair from each size association. So hopefully we can kind of touch on all of the different association sizes and memberships across the state.
Hi, my name's Kay Owen. I am a member of the Rocky Mount Area Association of Realtors, and I'm just here to tell you how we managed to achieve our RPAC fundraising goals for this year being 2020, year of COVID. We have about 250 members. And generally, I enlist between 6 and 10 volunteers to help with the phone bank. They can be quite a lot of fun where we come together around a conference table and we start just making calls, inviting people that have not yet contributed to RPAC to please support RPAC this year and also the association. And generally, we get favourable responses because sometimes people don't even realise that they've not made the contribution this year and just needed that reminder. So that's how we normally reach our goals. This year we had to be a little flexible, and we still kept it simple. Instead of gathering around the conference table, I simply emailed the list to our volunteers, and I gave them the time span of a week to do the phone bank and just reach out to people as they found the time. And by that, they could call the people that they were most comfortable calling. So it was likely to be that I encouraged them to call people in their office and people who they had a good relationship with. My volunteers also aided in collecting the checks. I delivered the investment cards to them so they could also just take a credit card. By the end of the week, the checks were rolling in, and that's how we achieved our RPAC goal this year. I highly recommend phone banks, however which way you do them, and they're highly effective. Good luck with your fundraising goals for next year.
Hey there, this is Cirilla Cothran. I am the chair of the RPAC committee for the Jacksonville Board of Realtors. And Hannon and Kristen had asked me to share some thoughts on why I think we've been successful at JBOR and our fundraising efforts. And I had to really think about this, and it all boiled down to 3 things in my mind. The first thing is planning. Super important to have a plan, but if 2020 has taught us nothing else, is that you need to be prepared to revise your plan. President Kim Perkins and I spent a lot of time brainstorming and had an amazing 2020 plan in place with our goals set and all these great ideas. And we're patting ourselves on the back for dropping applications last November for all of the great things we wanted to do in 2020. We came out strong at our January meeting with a super fun, very easy ring toss event. And then the world, as we all know, changed. We knew that we still wanted to keep our members engaged and realized that our message and our goals hadn't changed. We just had to change the way that we would achieve them. So we launched some member videos and we spoke about RPAC at every virtual member and BIC meeting. And then in September, I heard Kristen talking about the opportunity to do virtual trivia. And that was one of the events that we had planned to do for this year, and we really got bogged down in the logistics of how do you convert it from being an in-person fun event to something that's online. And so for us, it was a no-brainer that NCR had something that was packaged up ready to go to make it easy for us to implement something new and a fresh spin on something we had planned to do anyway. So within just a few weeks of learning about that, we launched our first virtual trivia event and raised about $700 that night. We also were super excited this year to launch our first ever major investor event. And we had researched this amazing venue and we have these grand plans, but again, that wasn't an option. So we thought about what would still be something fun to do for our major investors, and we decided on doing a virtual cheese and cheer event. So we had charcuterie boards that were gorgeous with wine and champagne delivered to all of our 2019 and 2020 major investors and encouraged them to invite guests as well. We had education with Marin and Bruce Gates and Kristen, and we took the time to celebrate our major investors. We raised over $5,000 and actually picked up 3 new major investors. The second thing I think has been super helpful in our success is our culture. I'm fortunate to have served and will continue to serve as the chair under some incredible leaders. Adam Kiefer, Kim Perkins, Christina Asbury, and our staff, Jamie and Heather, are just outstanding. They don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. And not just as major investors, but as champions of the culture we've created, which is all about education, appreciation, and fun. I'm proud to say that as a result of the culture we've created, we were able to achieve Triple Crown in April and increase our participation by 13%. For those of you serving as chairs or committee members, I would encourage you to develop a strong partnership with your local leaders and staff, as well as the NCR staff. Don't even get me started on how amazing they are. Kristen and Hannah are hands down the best. We also have an expanded GAD program and trustees for additional resources. If you're just starting to formulate your plan and you want to implement events, but you aren't interested in recreating the wheel, or you kind of need help getting things started, you have access to a ton of people and resources to help you find something that works for your association. And the third thing that I thought about that leads to our success is passion. This is the spark or the fun factor. Fundraising doesn't have to be boring or a chore. Our past chair, Christy Hill, spent 10 years laying the groundwork for us, and we have rocked costumes, we have done silly videos, we have done a variety of events. And I would just encourage you guys to find a way to put your own spin on it and enlist help from others who are passionate about it as well. I hope that these 3 tips were a little helpful, and I hope you guys all have an amazingly successful 2021.
Hi, my name is Marbette Artis, Realtor with Wilkinson Triad Realty, also a member of the Greensboro Regional Realtors Association. Today, we're going to talk about our Realtor Political Action Committee Achievement Plan. This year presented some unique challenges for our association despite meeting our fundraising goals. We were really successful this year in growing our participation and stepping up to hit our goals. Here's an easy acronym to remember: RPAC. R stands for research. Understand RPAC. Visit the NCR and NAR website. Attend winter training meetings and ask questions. Get excited. Your excitement will be felt through your voice, mannerisms, and actions. Identify fundraising options. We became proficient in raffles. We had a participation, reverse raffle, and we had a Top Chef event, which turned into a pandemic pivot raffle, which was very successful. P stands for plan. Plan your path. Utilize the state's email campaigns and phone banks. Call fellow realtors within and outside your firm. Develop that 30-second RPAC elevator speech that identifies our wins. Know your goal numbers. Know your association's investors. Consider increasing your investment to the next level and track your progress. A stands for assemble. Assemble an awesome team. Association members, local staff, and state staff are awesome members of a team. Keep them engaged and excited. Buy-in from each committee member will elevate their RPAC involvement. Update your team regularly on how close you are to attaining your set goal. C stands for create and celebrate. Create and celebrate that RPAC culture. Be passionate and continue to express the importance of investing. Keep an open line of communication with your local staff and state liaison. Always know how far you are from reaching your goal. Celebrate your achievements with RPAC committee members, the broker in charge, and association members. Remember, being RPAC chair, vice chair, or a committee member is a true labor of love and sometimes can be extremely thankless. RPAC chairs, vice chairs, and committee members should lead by example. As such, we should not ask for RPAC investments if we are not investing ourselves. Consider increasing your major investment to the next level. Happy RPAC fundraising and enjoy the journey. Please feel free to call me for any support at 336-339-4247 or email me at marvette@ahomepro@gmail.com. Again, happy RPAC fundraising.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim McBrayer, and I'm the Region 10 NC Realtors PAC trustee and served as RRAR's 2020 RPAC chair. While 2020 was a much different year than anticipated, it was one of the most important times to support RPAC. With real estate deemed essential statewide, and through most county stay-at-home orders, the significance of electing realtor champions was never made clearer. To reach out to our members to let them know why investing in RPAC is so important during this time, RRAR pivoted from our original fundraising plans to hosting several virtual fundraisers. We hosted 2 virtual auctions this year, made possible thanks to NC Realtors PAC, who provided the online auction software free of charge. Taking advantage of the software being offered by the state allowed us to drastically reduce the cost in hosting an online auction. Our first auction was an auction for advocacy. Branding our auction in this way allowed us to utilize the hook of the auction to further explain the great work their RPAC dollars went to this year. Our second auction was themed around the holiday shopping, and we encouraged our members to make an impact this holiday season by purchasing gifts for everyone on their list while also investing in RPAC. In our online auctions, we featured Apple Watches, AirPods, date night packages, a parking spot at RRAR, a mountain weekend, and of course, it would not be a realtor auction if we didn't include a few bottles of alcohol. These auctions raised over $27,500. We also worked with a local wine shop to offer a virtual wine tasting for our members. Members invested $100 each and received 3 bottles of wine and access to our virtual happy hour with a wine expert. To make sure members were aware of our event, we utilized the phone bank program and called our members to individually invite them to participate. One thing that we learned this year is that reaching out to members individually is the key to success. Talking with them and educating them about the importance of RPAC is vital to the continued success of our fundraising efforts. We did this via Zoom meetings with local real estate offices and via our 2 phone bank events where our RPAC members called hundreds of our members and raised more funds for RPAC. The final 2020 total for Raleigh Regional Realtor PAC is $123,000. To all of you leading the RPAC fundraising efforts in 2020, thank you for leading the PAC.
A huge thank you to all of our volunteers that volunteered their time to participate in our video. I think that we had a very engaged group last year, and we're looking forward to more volunteers in 2021. So a few key points to take away from our volunteers. Take advantage of your association luncheons or meetings. Advertise your events to your membership. Use the state's free events. I think this one was talked about in almost every video. So please utilize the free events that we offer. Make the ask. Make the ask personal. Tailor events towards our specific goal, increasing participation or increasing your dollars raised. Utilize your NC Realtors GADs and your NC Realtors PAC trustees. Host a variety of events and create and utilize a committee to execute and plan those events. And then the most important, engage your members. So the next question that we get quite a bit is how can we thank our NC RPAC investors? Again, for 2021, we will be offering the state recognition program. Each local association can utilize this program to thank their NC RPAC investors. This program is only available for those associations who hit their monetary NC RPAC goal. So you don't have to hit your participation goal, just your monetary. This pot of money will be on a first come, first served basis. So once the money is gone, it is gone. And our NC RPAC treasurer, Neil Johnson, will be approving all of these requests. We had some really great recognition ideas for 2020. Some of them you can see below. Gaston County did NC RPAC investor coolers. Jacksonville Board of Realtors, as well as Washington, Beaufort, and Neuse River did lapel pins. And then Johnston County did wine with a NC RPAC branded label, as well as a plaque for all of their elite investors. Cape Fear did some really cool masks, and I know Durham did some masks as well. So really anything kind of goes for this program. If you have a really creative idea on how to recognize your investors, please let us know. We're willing to work with you guys and be creative as we can using this program. Finally, I'm going to quickly go over our regional planning sessions. For those volunteers on the call that have been to our in-person training sessions before, we would normally break off into our regions and kind of do a bit of planning with your GAD and NCR staff. Unfortunately, we are virtual, so we will be hosting virtual planning sessions. Anyone is invited, anyone is welcome to attend. We do encourage that all of your RPAC volunteers and any local staff that want to volunteer their time attend. As you can see, the dates and the times are on the screen, so please jot down your region's date. Your trustees will also be on the call, so there will be an abundance of resources on these calls, and they could be really, really vital for your planning for the remainder of 2021. Finally, connect with us on social media. As Kristen mentioned, I have a NCR Facebook page, so does Kristen. We also have the NC Realtors PAC Instagram page. Follow us, friend us. We do try to post and update as much as we can. We are trying to get better about it. We also have updated on the NC Realtors website with a lot of helpful information, including our handbook, candidate request forms, local fundraising applications. So if you do have any questions regarding what we talked about today, some of the information will be on the website. Otherwise, just reach out to Kristen or myself. And thank you so much for attending today. Kristen and I truly, truly appreciate it. We do have one more speaker coming on after me, but we just want to say thank you. And please do not hesitate to reach out with questions, comments, concerns. Kristen and I are always available, and we look forward to working with everybody in 2021. And Catherine, do we have any questions, or are we good?
Yes, we had one question, and it was if a local association wants to have a speaker come to their RPAC event, how do they go about that and get that speaker at their meeting?
That's a great question. So anytime you want to have a speaker at an event, one, you must put that in your application. And then two, if it's an NAR speaker or NCR speaker, generally Kristen or I will kind of take the lead on booking them. But if it's anybody else, your GAD will be able to help confirm that speaker for you. If the speaker does have a cost of attending an event, you will need to make sure you add in that cost to the event expenses. Perfect, and I think that answers the question. So I will turn it back over to Chair York, and thank you again.
Thank you so much, Hannah. We welcome you aboard. I am so excited to have you. Golly, I cannot take it. So I think Kristen has a 2019 hashtag I back the pack video for all of you to see. So Kristen, if you can play that for us, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I back the pack because I really believe in the power of the crowd.
And I back the pack because I think it is beneficial to everybody in the real estate industry in North Carolina and across the country.
I back the pack because of all the benefits that our PAC brings to homeownership and encourages homeownership and also protecting our homeowners' rights.
It's one of the single most important things that we do as realtors.
I support the rights of property owners across the area and also the rights in our Association of Individual Real Estate Agents.
I've always backed the PAC because I feel that it's the best investment that I can make in my business, and it goes a long way to protecting our clients and our industry.
And it doesn't matter if you're red or blue because we're purple.
The PAC is a nonpartisan PAC. We are looking at the issues that affect real estate. We tracked over 375 bills this past year alone that would have affected the buying and selling of real estate.
I back the PAC because it protects our industry.
It's the biggest insurance policy we can have for our business. If you want to protect your business, protect your clients, you need to back the PAC.
I back the PAC.
I'm so proud to be a realtor, and I will always back the pack.
We back the PAC!
Thank you so much, Kristen, for that. The I Back the Pack is coming out later this year. So you guys need to go ahead and start preparing your videos for that because we're going to ask for them, especially if we're still virtual. So keep that in the back of your minds. And at this time, we're going to take about a 5 or 6 minute break before we come back with an enormous speaker from NAR. And I am so happy to have Holly with us today. So take about a 5-6 minute break and I'll catch you guys shortly.
And if anybody is wondering if we will be sending out the videos and links and this information, we will be. So just give Hannah and I a little bit of time to get it all prepared, but we will send everything out to you so you have these materials at your fingertips. See you back in a few.
Hey, Kristen.
Hey.
Hey. You still got Holly? Is she on?
She is on here, yep.
Okay. I'm gonna start here in about another minute or so, if she's ready.
She gave us a thumbs up, so I think she's good.
I like it when she says thumbs up. Just trying to stay on track here so everybody gets out of here by 4:05.
I think we've done really well on time today.
I love your
We have. It's been a lot of information to cover. All right, we're going to go ahead and get back to it if that's okay with everybody. We welcome everybody back, and we greatly appreciate everyone who has stuck with us through today's training. I know it's been long. I think it's been a lot of fun, though, and informative stuff. Remember, 3 lucky attendees will be receiving an Amazon gift card following today's training. You must have been present for the whole entire time. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our last speaker of the afternoon, who was Holly Woodward. I had asked Holly last night for a bio, and I have to tell y'all, she's very humble. But thanks to NAR, I want to introduce Holly because she deserves it. So Holly is the broker manager for McGraw Realtors out in Oklahoma, and has been in residential real estate for 20 years, and she actually in Northeast Oklahoma. Her passion for serving her clients in the industry led her to volunteer, look at you, at her local and state boards, as well as the NAR. She has served as 2020 president of the Greater Tulsa Association of Realtors, and only the 9th woman to hold the position in its 100-year history. That's huge. She is also elected as president-elect for the National Residential Real Estate Council and will serve as the 2022 president. Holly will be the first realtor to serve in that role from the state of Oklahoma. Go Sooners. Holly, she strives to be at the forefront of the industry on behalf of her lifelong clients. And I'll tell you, Holly, we greatly appreciate you being with us today. Your son was 2020 Sales Associate of the Year for GTAR last week, and please send our congratulations to him. And without further ado, I will give you Holly Woodward, who is your NAR RPAC Participation Council Chair.
Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate that. And yes, you did take liberty, because I said my introduction. Those are like the icing on top. Those are really nice things, to talk about on a career that I have absolutely loved and enjoyed. And I get to share that with my son. So how awesome is that? And I will for sure let him know that you sang his praises today, because I was just a little bit proud of that young man last year to be the youngest in the history of our 100-year association to receive that title. And it's because of his involvement in things like RPAC. So thank you for having me here today, especially in this market, and taking, several hours of your day to participate, because I know that every minute and every hour during the 8 to 5 or whatever it may be, who knows 8 to 5, right? We don't know 40-hour work weeks, but I know how extremely valuable your time is today and every day. And certainly this last year has proven even more what an asset we are to America's economy. So thank you for that. And I have to say, I absolutely love the theme of your conference. I'm all about creativity. I see Liz Best Bradford is on here, and she and I get to work together. I'm the RPAC Participation Council Chair this year for NAR. And she's like, Holly, you've got a hidden kindergarten teacher in you. I don't know where it came from, but I think it's because I homeschooled my son for kindergarten and first grade. So I'm trying to kind of make up for it now. So these creative conferences and the GOATs, I love it. Greatest of all time is awesome. I'm a queen of acronyms also. But what wasn't a part of my bio, and I'm going to share with you that is especially timely for this is that a little known fact is that I was in 4-H, I was in FFA, and I high school rodeoed for my entire high school career. And so I got to know some goats up front or up close and personal, literally. So, you know, I actually chased them. I tied them up. I got head butted by a couple of them. I even got spit on. And I'll tell you this, I even milked a couple of them. So, you know, don't ask about that. But what I can tell you is the one thing that I learned about goats early on is they are confident. They all think they're the greatest of all time. I'm serious. I never met a goat that didn't think that he ruled the world. They'll climb on the top of the tallest haystacks and everything else. So this is perfect. This is very timely and it's accurate to have goats be the theme of today. So thank you for having me. And in order to stay on time and be respectful, because that's one of the things the ladies asked me to make sure that I do was stay on time to get you guys out of here on time. I've taken some notes of things that I just want to make sure that we cover. And so I'm going to be reflecting on those and bringing them to you here today. So again, thank you for having me. My hope is, though, when I leave here today, that you truly have a goat mentality. And by that, I mean that you have confidence in yourself, what you stand for, and what RPAC does for our industry, and that you won't be doing any headbutting or spitting. You'll leave that to the politicians. And of course, if you spend any time on social media, that urge might be to the latter, but I'm going to ask that you please don't. So here's what I know. The only thing a little bit more difficult than being the speaker that's right before or after lunch is being the one that's right before you getting to get back to all your clients, returning those phone calls and messages, and possibly having a glass of wine or a shot of bourbon. I see Randall Blankenship was on the call. So whatever applies to you, I want to help you get there. So just hang in there, be patient with me. I promise you it's not going to be painful. I pray that it's absolutely insightful and it gives you at minimum one takeaway to get North Carolina and all of you competitive realtors to your RPAC goals this year. In fact, I want to see you exceed those goals. So I've actually got your sheet here. I had the opportunity to review your past successes and hear about the areas that you wanted to improve on in 2021. I see your participation total was 27% in 2019 and 2020, and the goal is to get you at least to 32% this year. So let's see what we can do to make that happen. Well, first of all, what I want to do is introduce you to Linda Trevor. I know that y'all know her, and I want to give her a huge shout out because she's actually serving as your RPAC PC this year. And I'm really, really looking forward to her. She's very engaged in the process and she wants to be there for you. So you guys know that she is a tremendous resource for you, and be expecting to hear from her in 2021. So other than Linda, how many of you that are joining us today are serving on a committee at NAR? Anyone at all? I know there are quite a few of you. So if you are, you may have seen the video that I made that went out right before the training conference to try to get all committee members invested to 100%. So $15 invested, fair share invested, AKA one of the hardest sells in RPAC history. And I'm not kidding. I can say that from experience. So if you didn't see that video, here's a Cliff Note version. 2020 was a really tough year. We as realtors, thanks to RPAC and being deemed essential, are helping to lead America's economic recovery. So if nothing else, you know, hats off to RPAC for that, and hats off to each and every one of you who closed at least one piece of business this last year. A lot of you actually saw your biggest production year in history. So again, hats off, in an extremely, extremely challenging year. But as I said, we're leading the economic recovery in this country, and it's a direct result of the relationships that we have with the legislator, courtesy of RPAC and NAR. So 2021 will likely be just as difficult. if not more. And I say that because we really don't have an end in sight. We do have vaccines, but there's no guarantees. We've got interest rate lows, but there's a lot of changes, and there's a lot of people that are stepping back and trying to make a decision, what they want to do moving forward. Will they hold back? Will they make those purchases? Are they going to move forward with that? And what we have to remember and get across to our members is that now more than ever, RPAC stands for Relationships Politically Are Crucial. RPAC. Relationships politically are crucial. I personally serve as an FPC, and I have the ear of a congressman here in Oklahoma. I had no idea the impact that made until I had the privilege of holding that role. So you guys get it. You're the RPAC trustees. You completely understand. You've taken that time out of your day today to be here. But I want to give you a couple nuggets or a couple ideas that are going to help you get those that don't get it, that aren't engaged, involved. And if they don't understand what an FPC does, I would encourage you to reach out to your state FPCs and have them maybe do a Zoom conference or something like that to talk to your members about what those relationships look like and how they can speak to them directly. But that's just something I want to touch on. Like I said, obviously, each and every one of you that are on this call today understand the importance because you're here. So it's the how that we get across to someone that doesn't. So if you don't believe in what you're asking, then you're always going to get a no. We know that. We know that in sales. Like if you're expecting a no, then that's what you're going to get. I expect a yes every single time. And I'll tell you what, am I disappointed a few times? You bet. But I either get a yes or I have a lesson, and my lesson is an approach. So I don't know if how many of you were involved when Tom Salamone came up with the idea of phone banks. And phone banks are something that I'm going to encourage if you aren't already doing them. And if you are, I encourage you to keep on doing them because it has proven to be one of the all-time most successful ways to get investors to invest their fair share. They want to hear from you. Emails, the open rate, we know they're not great. Text messages can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. But if you pick up the phone and you call somebody and you talk to them and you ask them to invest, your probability is a lot higher. Now, that's if they answer the phone. But if they don't, call them back. Now, I will say we had a phone bank here in Oklahoma a few years ago and had, like I say, one of the biggest successes that we've ever had. And Liz can speak to this too. Other states have raised $40,000 doing phone banks. But I picked up the phone one day and I called one of my friends in the industry. And I was like, yeah, because you have this list and it's a really simple process if you haven't done it yet. But I picked up the phone and I called and rings a couple times and she picks up, hey, how are you? And I said, I'm doing great. This lady is somebody that I've looked up to for a lot of years because she's creative and her marketing does a lot of things. But she's a $20 million producer. So, you want to touch those people. You want to talk to those people. You want to see what they're doing different that sets them apart. And I said, hey, we're doing a phone bank. I noticed that you have never invested in RPAC. If you don't mind, can I ask you why? And she goes, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it, Holly. If this is what you're calling about, it's a no for me. And I laughed. I genuinely laughed like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. Like I've known her for years. She was dead serious. She said, I don't get involved in politics. Don't call me again. Like, if that's why you're calling, don't call again on that. And I was like floored. I absolutely was. And I will be candid, at that time, I really didn't realize the entire scope of what RPAC did. I was calling, and when we use the words RPAC, Realtors Political Action, a lot of times that's a turnoff to people. And they think it is one party or the other. I loved your I back the PAC video that you showed right before you went to break, because we truly are the purple party, right? It doesn't matter. It's not a Democratic or a Republican or an independent. We are the Realtor Party. I think sometimes, well, I know that many times most people don't understand that. So even when we get those no's and even when we get those frustrations, we've got to see that as an opportunity to educate. And so I reached back out to her after the phone bank because I really was floored. 132 people said yes that day. 132 people that some hadn't even sold $1 million. And, others had sold more than that. And some were really, truly just getting started out in the industry. But for her to say no, boy, that wasn't just a challenge. I mean, that was like, hey, she's missing the boat here. And then I started looking back. I mean, so we did, and she now invests, but she's not quite where we want, but we're getting that fair share. So I got across to her what I needed to get across. So just because somebody says no and they're firm about it, it's usually from lack of education, of real education. And it might take a little bit more, and it may not be you that has the right answers, or it may not be you that needs to be talking to that person. That's why you've got your RPAC PC, Linda, or you've got your MI, major investor counsel to fall back on, or just a partner in the industry that maybe isn't in that same company, or maybe is in that same company that you can tap into. So use your resources, get to know who your resources are, and make sure you're utilizing them. So a no doesn't mean that we have the luxury of not educating, though. I want to make sure that I get that point across. Just because she said no, because she does have such an influence, people really do look up to her. We need to make sure she's got a pin on her jacket, and we need to make sure that she understands and can answer those questions when she gets them, because she no doubt will. So what that did, though, that particular day, I really started thinking about why I ever got involved. And I realized, and I looked back at my investment history, and I did again this year, because, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but, I did kind of a fast forward course when I started learning about President's Circle. And this year I will be inducted into the Hall of Fame virtually, obviously. And again, that's not to brag, but I had Jackie Zaprowski at NAR pull my investment history. And I looked at it a few years ago, and then I looked at it again now. And in the roles that I'm in now, it really, as a broker manager that runs an office of 41 associates, I started looking at it, and I thought, what does that tell about me? It really is. It's an open book about my investment history. And so it starts out 25, our fair share here in our state is 25. So we're a little bit higher than the national. So I was looking at 25, I was looking at 50, then 99, 250, kind of bouncing all over the place. And then there were a couple of years where I realized nothing at all. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was actually a little bit embarrassed, because I'm like, how do I have the role that I have if I had gaps in my investment history? When I started thinking back and I was looking at my volume and everything, there was absolutely no excuse. In fact, one year I had one of the highest production years of my career, and I didn't invest, right? But what I did recognize, and my whole point in this is, I didn't have a broker at that time. I had moved companies. And prior to that, I had a broker that was very involved, that was very committed and believed and knew what RPAC did for us. And at that time in my career, I didn't. The company that I worked at, that was just not something that was important to them. And so I'm telling you that because that's one of the main things that we have to do. We have to not only get in front of brand new associates, we have to get in front of brokers and AEs and let them know the importance of RPAC. So I'm going to task you with doing that. I mean, if they don't believe in it, it was very obvious to me. If I shared my investment history with you, you'd go, oh, okay, boom, boom. I worked somewhere different. And then the next year when I changed companies and I became a broker manager, all of a sudden, it's my investment plus PC every year. And that won't change. I understand the importance. And when I sit down and I talk to my associates or potential associates, I have a conversation with them. None of them could say, what is RPAC when it's all said and done, right? I'm constantly educating. I'm talking about how important it is in the industry. And when somebody comes in to sit down that's going to be new to the industry and they're interviewing other companies, I always have my RPAC pin on. And the reason I do is because I can say, hey, like we do when we're listing a property. I can point out my RPAC pin, and that's a topic of discussion. And hey, anybody else that comes in to interview, check and see if they have a pin, check and see if they're invested in the industry. I do the same thing with potential new associates, but let me just say this, I do that same thing with associates that I want to work with, because I don't just sign on everybody that walks through my door. That's what's awesome. But they know what RPAC is before they ever sign on. So that's something when we're talking about ideas to get people involved or get people invested. These RPAC pins are a huge topic of discussion. They really do. They start conversations. And to me, it's extremely important. But how about, not everybody is going to be a major investor. And what we're trying to do is get your participation up an additional 5% at least. So one of the things that we're going to be doing this year is on the participation council is having each state design an RPAC pin. And you can see right here, this has been a huge conversation starter because, again, not everybody's going to be at a major investor level. Not everybody is going to have an MI pin, but everybody can have an RPAC pin to start a discussion. And Kitty Wallace from the Washington Association of Realtors sent me this pin for making an investment in Washington RPAC. So for $20, I got this, and it's RPAC Realtors Are Legendary. And it was a huge, huge thing for them to be able to do as a state. It was extremely popular. And I will tell you what, when we're able to finally get back together, and even before we were at a couple of the conferences, you were seeing these going around. So Linda's going to get information on that. We'll be talking about it, but get your creative juices flowing, because whether you're wearing one, you need to be getting one or designing one. So again, the Washington Legendary Association, we live in a society where people want instant gratification. So if they give you that $15 investment, wouldn't it be cool to be able to hand them an RPAC pin for North Carolina? It's tangible. It's something that they can wear. It's something that they can share. It's something that they can discuss. They can say that they're an investor in RPAC, and they don't necessarily, it doesn't matter if they're a major investor or not. But people are going to want to know, hey, where did you get it? How do I get it? That type of thing. And so that's another way that you spread the word. So I'm thinking with your theme that maybe North Carolina can come up with something that has a goat on it. I'm not sure, but be thinking about that. And Linda's going to be reaching out. We've also had tremendous success in states that have designed RPAC socks. Of course, that's a little harder to see. I wear boots all the time, but I do have my RPAC socks. I'm not usually unzipping my boots or pulling up my pant leg to show people. But, a lot of the guys like to buy those. They'll do a $15 investment and they get these socks. It's a conversation starter. And that is what we are here for. That's what your task with is, to begin the conversation, get the education going, because, you don't know until you know. And then once you do, there's no excuse, right? So as I said, Linda's going to be getting with you. So get those creative juices going, come up with some ideas for an RPAC pin, maybe some RPAC socks, because it's pennies on the dollar to make these things, but they really do have a tremendous return. And even Kentucky. So another idea, Kentucky is having a shirt designing contest. And I didn't have an opportunity to go home and switch before I got on the call to my Realtor Party purple shirt, but I do have on, I have said my 2020 uniform, and even coming into 2021 are motivational t-shirts and a blazer. I mean that, I can still look professional. I still have on my nice pants and my shoes and everything, but these t-shirts have started a lot of conversations. Where do you get that? Where did you get this? Wild Ivy here in town has gotten a tremendous amount of business because of a t-shirt that I have worn, and I wear all different ones. This one says "Be the Good," which is what every single one of you are in this industry. But I'll wear my realtor t-shirts. I will wear my RPAC t-shirts. I'll wear this "Be the Good, Be the Change." They are conversation starters. So we know the state of Kentucky is doing, every one of their boards is doing a t-shirt design contest. And then the winning design will be voted on by the membership at their next meeting. And then they will sell that design, or they'll sell that t-shirt for an investment in RPAC. So that's also something. Again, it's a conversation starter. It's fun, and it's something that people can put their hands on and get started. So I would just ask that you get creative, start thinking about conversation starters, and talk to your RPAC committee members that are serving at the national level, because we have, and they have, stipends to help offset the cost of these, and they want to be able to use them. They're use it or lose it stipends at the end of the year. So make sure you're using them, and early on is better. I mean, how awesome is it going to be when North Carolina says we have already met or exceeded our goal for participation? You know, and I say when, because you will. And I'm believing 2021 is going to be your year. I have no doubt. So again, where can I get the pen? Where can I get the shirt? Open that dialogue. And then let's jump back on track. I want to do a quick exercise. This is a really simple one. And you know, that I use this with my associates before I really started, you know, hammering home about RPAC. When I have the opportunity to talk in front of, as was said earlier, I was the 2020 president for the Greater Tulsa Association of Realtors. So when I was in front of a large group, or when I tasked my board to all be investors, some of the things that I asked them were really simple, you know, and y'all can do it too. Did you close one transaction in the last 9 months of 2020? I'm going to guess you did, or you wouldn't be on this call, but I'm just talking about, you know, anyone else. Did you close at least one transaction in the last 9 months? Was even one single transaction with a government-backed 30-year mortgage? And this is interactive typically, right? And you could even just stop at that one, because I found that one to be the absolute most effective. If they closed a 30-year government-backed loan, then they can thank RPAC, and that $15 investment's real easy. So how many of you were able to deduct $10,000 in state and local taxes on your federal returns? If you have no idea, thank your CPA, but I also want you to thank RPAC. Did you have any clients that closed a 1031 exchange, tax deferred exchange last year? And if you don't know what that is, good for you. But if you do, good for you too, and good for RPAC. Or did any of your clients close on a property that required flood insurance? Flood insurance is very near and dear to my heart. I remember when I was 8 years old being with my grandmother. My mom was sick in the hospital. We didn't know if she was going to make it, and my grandmother had come to get us. And Tropical Storm Danielle on September 5th, 1980 was hitting shore in South Texas, which is where 98% of my family lives. And at 8 years old, and my brother there at 11, not knowing if my mom was going to come home from the hospital, but sitting there with my grandma, and this tropical storm comes in that turned into a depression, didn't stay, you know, full force hurricane, but did tremendous devastation. And I will tell you, I remember shoving a towel at the door when the water started seeping in, the door that we came in and out of every day, just shoving towels at the door. And my grandmother saying, "Oh, honey," you know, like grabbing me back and pulling me into the house and telling me that it wasn't going to matter, you know. And sure enough, here came the towel floating across the floor, and then 18 inches of water later, and my aunt and uncle coming out and picking us up in a boat to take us out of our home. But the one thing, if you talk to my dad today, and he's 84 years old, the one thing that gave him confidence is they had flood insurance on their home. They didn't have flood insurance on it the first time water seeped in. It wasn't nearly to that level, praise God. But when it really did the devastation that it did, they had flood insurance. And we have flood insurance now. Thank you, RPAC, for that. So did you have any clients that closed a home that required flood insurance? Or do you have any sellers that need to be able to sell a home that would not be able to sell it if they didn't have flood insurance, or if we didn't have flood insurance available? So if you raised your hand to any of those questions, or if you were sitting there thinking in your mind, yes, yes, absolutely, all of the above, or if you closed one single transaction and received a non-taxed at the table commission for more than $15, then you need to thank our PAC and you need to invest in our PAC. Really pretty simple. So how about that? Those questions are so simple and so straightforward, and I guarantee you one of them, and if it's not the 30-year mortgage, I don't know, will apply to pretty close to 100% of every realtor in this industry. And I dare say if you tweak those questions and you go in front of a broker or your AE, because I guarantee you, if your AE is not believing in RPAC, you need to have a huge conversation there too. But your brokers, you can tweak those questions and make it applicable to a broker, because I don't know a single broker, and I know a whole lot of brokers, but none of them are riding and driving nice vehicles and getting their checks at the end of the month based solely on associates that are doing cash transactions, right? Do any of you? I don't think so. So tweak those questions, get in front of brokers, get in front of your AEs and use those questions, but also in front of your peers. You absolutely have that opportunity daily. Hey, did you close a transaction? I heard you had a closing last week. That's awesome. Good for you. Did they use an FHA loan, or did they use a government-backed loan? And if they don't know, that's scary. They really need to invest, and we really need an opportunity for education. But what I'm saying is these are simple conversation starters that you can have on a regular basis, especially if it's somebody that hasn't invested. Why not, right? So tweak them, make them applicable to either an AE or a broker, or a non-investor. And like I say, the most effective I've ever found with my associates is the 30-year mortgage, because you could even go a step further when you're talking to brokers and break it down like, okay, how many transactions were done with the 30-year backed mortgage? How many were done this way? How many were done this way? And here's the importance of making sure that that still applies in their business, because when you start talking money with a broker, they'll start listening, right? So I'll tell you what, there are no ifs, ands, or headbutts about it, right? And I'm not kidding. Did you see what I did there? Like no headbutts, and I'm not kidding. That's a baby goat. But if you believe it, you as a state will absolutely achieve it. I have zero doubt. So let's just recap a few of the ideas for getting investors. We've got our phone banks, which are extremely effective, and you can tap into your RPAC resources for that. If you haven't done it, I really urge each and every one of you to jump in and be a part of that. And it's a really easy platform, and it really just makes you feel good. When you make those calls and you get a yes, boy, ring your own bell when you're at home. That's the thing about not being able to be together. When we had our RPAC phone bank, whoever got somebody to invest got like bling necklace, or they'd ring the bell and they'd get a crown put on them or whatever else. That's kind of fun. But golly, put a bell there, and when somebody says yes, they get off the phone, you ring your own bell, because it's a big deal. It is a really big deal. I need to put my glasses down so I stop waving them around. I apologize for that. So phone banks, if you're not doing them, do them. RPAC pins, socks, shirts. They're conversation starters. Like I say, if somebody's not comfortable becoming a major investor yet, they can still wear an RPAC pin. So get creative, start thinking, wear your t-shirts, do something to let people know that they need to engage, or say, hey, did you see my new shirt? It's pretty cool. I got it from the North Carolina Association of Realtors. They're selling them for RPAC. Have those conversations. What's RPAC? And then again, the biggest thing, and the thing that I'm going to encourage you the most about, is getting in front of leadership, whatever that looks like. And if they're not comfortable, there are some times I am blessed with the fact that I have been at a few different companies here. I moved companies all on very good terms, but I left management knowing, you know, that there's always a possibility that you might come back, right? But I did it for my business. I left on very good terms. So I have the privilege of being able to walk into any of those companies and have a conversation. And I'm not Holly, the recruiter, you know, coming in that they feel threatened by. I'm Holly that believes, that is invested and committed to this industry, that wants to make sure that it's around for a very long time, that has a son that has that same level of commitment, that has the same level of commitment that every single one of you have here today. And I thank you for that. So those relationships are critically important. If you can get in front of the new members for your association and give a 15-minute RPAC spiel, or even a 5-minute, you know, something so simple. And if your AE will allow that, and or the brokers of your local companies, and heck, get some broker challenges going. You know, give them some incentives to get investments, leave buckets, leave, you know, something like have them compete against one another, because we are competitive by nature, right? I mean, you're seeing all these Facebook posts and everything right now about, I sold this many million, I did this. Well, guess what? You know, we have to be careful about what we put on social media as far as investing in RPAC. But it's certainly a conversation and an education opportunity, right? So we know that people can afford it. If you can't afford a $15 investment, do you need to consider a different career? You know, I think it's like 0.0014 cents a day if you divide it by 365 days. So get in front of those people that you know, like, and trust, and that respect you and will give you the opportunity to speak to RPAC. That's your task. So tap into your RPAC committee members who are here with us today, and hats off to them for their service, and to each and every one of you again for being here. I have no doubt that this year, 2021, is going to be the greatest of all time for the North Carolina Association of Realtors, RPAC, and that you are going to not only meet but exceed your goals, and I would dare say exceed Nationals RPAC participation goals of 37%. So thank you, North Carolina. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to stay on here during your question and answer session, but I hope that you have gleaned a couple of ideas or a couple of conversation starters in the last 15 minutes or so that are going to help you reach your goals. And I'll give you my cell phone number. Several of you already have it. And again, when I saw that iBack RPAC video and I was looking at all those familiar faces, there is no reason that you are not way ahead of the pack, literally, because you guys rock. So thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope that, like I say, I've given you a couple of nuggets or information that you can take moving forward. And I can't wait to celebrate with you. I really, really can't. Thank you so much. And I wish you health, continued success, and all the best in 2021.
Thank you so much, Holly, for being with us today. You are quite the inspiration, and please do send your son my congratulations.
I'll do it. I absolutely will.
Yes,
thank you.
So you bet. And I'll make sure if we do shirts that you get one. How about that?
That's a deal. I'll buy it. I'll invest.
All right, then. Well, we got you covered.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Holly, for being with us. I know that it's you're busy just like the rest of us. We will now. We're going to skip the question and answer session. We're a little bit over on time. I know everybody's tired. We've been looking at your questions in the chat, and we've collected a few. But what we're going to do is we're going to email you the answers to those. If you guys have questions, please reach out to myself, Hannah, Kristen, any of us, any of your trustees, your FPCs, your SPCs. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me this afternoon. It has been my pleasure to be with you. I miss all of you terribly. Y'all know how I am. I've got to see my peeps. And if I don't get to see them soon, I don't know what's going to happen on my end. But if you guys have anything that you want me to participate in via Zoom, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to join you with whatever you may be doing. And our winners for the gift cards are Duncan Martin, Cindy Burns, and Lisa Borders. We will be sending your Amazon gift cards to you probably via mail. Once again, I say thank you for spending your afternoon with me. I look forward to raising a ton of money, and I'll be honest with you guys. I know our goal is 931,000, but I would love to top $1 million this year if we can do it. I say let's do it, and I think that I think it's very doable. So if you need me for anything, don't hesitate to reach out. And y'all have a great week. Be safe. Love yourself. Love others. Stay safe and be well.
Thank you all so much. Email us with questions or anything you might have. Bye-bye.